Chapter 1658. Lin Feng. Yu Shui and Yu Jing looked at each other. Compared to his appearance, they were more familiar with this name. Let's go. Yu Cheng bit her lips and blinked at Lin Feng, indicating for him to leave. She had been outside since she was rescued by Lin Feng, so she didn't see Lin Feng fight the two wing monarchs alone. What's wrong, junior sister? Are your eyes hurt? Yu Jing asked in surprise. Yu Cheng blushed and stuttered. Yu Shui looked at Yu Cheng in surprise, then looked at Lin Feng. He was stunned. Junior sister, you know this hero? Hero? Yu Cheng didn't know how to react. Wasn't he a wanted criminal? When did he become a hero? Yu and Huang's three disciples looked at each other in confusion. Lin Feng, on the other hand, smiled and said, Of course I know her. She came to catch me, but let me go. Yu Cheng was shocked. She stomped her feet angrily. Hey, how could you say that? Caught and let him go. Yu Shui and Yu Jing looked at each other with strange expressions. Suddenly, Yu Jing widened his eyes and opened his mouth in an exaggerated manner. He pointed at Yu Cheng and said, It can't be, junior sister. He can't be. Yu Shui also came back to his senses. His head was buzzing. Yes, I am Lin Feng. Lin Feng said calmly. The wanted criminal you put a bounty on in Yurenhuang City. There was complete silence. Yu Shui and Yu Jing's expressions were interesting. Yu Cheng was confused. She looked at Lin Feng and then at her two senior brothers. It seemed like there was a story between the three of them that she didn't know. Wanted criminal. This joke was too big. Misunderstanding. This must be a misunderstanding. Yu Shui smiled. What a joke. They wouldn't dare to catch Lin Feng even if they had 10,000 guts. It didn't matter if he was a wanted criminal or not. They had to deny it for now. As the commander of the Yu clan, Yu Shui knew what to do at the right time. That's right. The hero is so generous and righteous. How can he be a wanted criminal? Yu Jing refuted without hesitation. He had witnessed Lin Feng's strength with his own eyes, as well as Lin Feng's courage to confront the Winged Men clan. He truly admired such an expert from the bottom of his heart. Wanted criminal? Which wanted criminal would do such a thing? Lin Feng smiled at Yu Cheng. She was indeed very kind. She had helped him time and time again without knowing it. This time, he had repaid evil with good and saved the Yu clan. A large part of the reason was because of her, because she believed that human nature was good. What's going on? Senior brothers, can you tell me? Yu Cheng looked very adorable. Haha, junior sister, you don't know how powerful Hero was just now. Yu Jing was like a fan, talking nonstop about Lin Feng's feats just now. His saliva flew everywhere, and his tone was rhythmic. A strange light flashed in Yu Cheng's beautiful eyes. From time to time, she glanced at Lin Feng with deep admiration. He had turned the tide with his own strength. How powerful was that? In particular, Lin Feng had just saved her. Yu Cheng admired him even more. The young girl's heart was touched. Since ancient times, beauties loved heroes. Not only Yu Cheng, but Lin Feng had already become the object of admiration of all the human experts. However, Lin Feng did not feel anything about this. Instead, it was the words that the cool and strange wings monarch asked him before he left that touched Lin Feng's heart. Origin Awakened Continent? What's that place? Lin Feng was curious. According to the cool and strange wings monarch, the demon clan that was already extinct in the Tung Chi continent still existed in the Origin Awakened continent. Moreover, the conditions to enter the Origin Awakened continent seemed to be quite high. In addition, the outsider that Yu Shui had mentioned just now seemed to have such strength. However, as far as he knew, the strength of the other experts in the Milky Way was very different from his. Lin Feng pondered. After the battle, although there were not many things waiting to be done in Yuren City, they still needed to deal with it for a while. Just the smell of blood alone could not be removed in a short period of time. There were also the mountains of corpses, the messy streets and shops, and the human residents who were wandering around. Lin Feng was invited by the Yuren race and temporarily settled down in Yuren City. As for the arrest warrant, it had long been removed as a joke. What a joke! Did someone really dare to arrest Lin Feng? If the Yuren race dared to arrest Lin Feng, they would have been condemned by the other humans and become a rat on the street. Lin Feng's reputation in Yuren City had even surpassed that of Yurin Emperor. For a time, his reputation had spread throughout the entire Yurin city. He was the hero in the hearts of every human expert. Absolutely powerful. Lin Feng used facts to tell everyone that the talent of humans might not be inferior to the winged race. Humans could have tyrannical strength that was comparable to the winged race. To the human experts, this battle was not only a victory, but also a confidence that came from the bottom of their hearts. It could be said that in the current Yurin city, as long as Lin Feng raised his arm and shouted, it was enough to pull down the Yurin race. Yu Ju, this brat, is insatiably greedy. He's a disgrace to our Yurin race. Yu Shui angrily rebuked. After knowing that Lin Feng was framed, he immediately sent out an official document to apologize and help Lin Feng clear his name. Lin Feng smiled and did not mind. Actually, the matter was very simple. When you had enough strength, you could even turn black into white. Even if he really killed Yu Ju first, Yu Shui would help him take revenge. This was the reality. Moreover, what he said was the truth. That's right, because of this black sheep, we humans were almost consigned to eternal damnation, Yu Jing sighed. If it was him, he might not have saved the Yurin race. After all, they were enemies and not friends at that time. Big Brother Lin is really magnanimous. Yu Cheng praised, her big eyes flashing. Lin Feng asked, "Is there any news of the son of the heavenly dragon?" "No." Yu Shui shook his head, his gaze sharp. This kid actually dares to complain first. If there is news of him, we will definitely capture him and let Brother Lin deal with him. The son of the heavenly dragon was the one who snitched, turning black into white and white into black. It was no wonder that Yu Shui was so angry. He was used by others and almost offended someone he should not have offended. If he angered Lin Feng, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if his clan was exterminated, it was possible, right? Thinking of Lin Feng's tyrannical strength in battle, Yu Shui could not help but shiver. No matter how he looked at it, their Yurin race could not compare to the two Wing Kings. Brother Lin, don't worry. We will definitely give you an explanation for this matter. Yu Jing vowed with a sharp gaze. The son of the heavenly dragon dares to slander you. His crime is unforgivable. Not only us, the entire Yurin city will not let him off. Lin Feng nodded. He did not have time to care about the son of the heavenly dragon, so it was best to leave this matter to the Yurin race. Right, do you know where Origin Awakened Continent is? Lin Feng looked at Yu Shui and Yu Jing. Origin Awakened Continent? Yu Shui and Yu Jing's expressions suddenly changed as they looked at each other. Chapter 1659. Brother Lin, you know about the Origin Awakened Continent? Yu Shui asked seriously. Lin Feng nodded, but didn't explain further. Senior brother, where is the Origin Awakened Continent? Yu Chung didn't know and asked curiously. The Origin Awakened Continent is what we call the Central Continent. This name only exists in books and rarely is mentioned. Yu Jing answered. The Central Continent. Lin Feng let out a soft "oh," slightly surprised. The most mysterious Central Continent was rumored to be a land of no return. Why is the Central Continent called the Origin Awakened Continent? Yu Chung asked Lin Feng the question he wanted to ask. Yu Shui's eyes shone as he looked into the distance. Because it's the center of the Tong Chi continent, where the source is, so it's called the Origin Awakened Continent. Yu Chung nodded. Isn't the Central Continent a land of no return? Yu Jing said, it's indeed a land of no return for us humans, because we're not strong enough to enter. The Origin Awakened Continent is like an island surrounded by an ocean. There are countless terrifying beasts in this ocean. The weakest are at the chaotic immortal level. The strongest are even more terrifying than the two-winged monarchs. To enter the Origin Awakened Continent, you have to cross the Origin Awakened Ocean. Even with Brother Lin's strength, you might not be able to enter, Yu Jing reminded him tactfully. As a warrior, he could sense Lin Feng's interest in the Origin Awakened Continent. That's amazing. Yu Cheng covered her mouth in shock. Yu Shui said, that's not all. The Origin Awakened Continent is where the true experts gather. There are the winged men, the ancient demon race, and outsiders like Brother Lin. Outsiders. Lin Feng knew very well that Yu Shui wasn't referring to the experts in the Milky Way, but the previous batch, or even the previous batches. After all, the interval between the opening of the ancient Myriad World's secret realm wasn't long for the Dark Region Master. The experts in the Milky Way who could enter the ancient Myriad World's secret realm and the Tung Chi continent were the elites of the elites. They weren't as strong as the natives of the Tung Chi continent because of the region. As long as those super geniuses had enough time to uncover their potential, anything was possible. Do the demons have them too? Lin Feng asked. Yu Shui said, there should be. There might be many other extinct clans. Yu Shui let out a soft sigh and said, the winged men, who are innately gifted with the power of space, are like fish in water. They can avoid the origin enlightened sea and enter directly. Are there many experts in Origin Awakening continent? Lin Feng asked. Yu Shui said, so many that it's hard to imagine. The three-winged monarchs seem mediocre compared to them. However, Origin Awakening continent seems to be hard to enter and even harder to leave. I don't know why there are so few experts who leave Origin Awakening continent. Maybe it's because of the energy, Yu Jing said. I heard from my master. Lin Feng nodded. Martial artists pursued the ultimate power. The Origin Awakening continent was the center of the Tung Chi continent. It gathered the purest energy, and cultivation was twice the result with half the effort. Naturally, other continents could not compare to it. If it were him, he might not be willing to come out after entering Origin Awakening continent. However, this was just a guess. We don't know much, but the winged men know more. After all, they're the true rulers of this continent. Yu Shui sighed. As the ruler of the Tung Chi continent, the winged men were powerful. Even if the humans won this war and protected Yurin City, what could they do? The death of the winged monarch and a few other winged men experts was not a big blow to the winged men. However, what about the humans? There were not many of them to begin with. The more they died, the faster they declined. Moreover, could the humans counterattack the winged men? They could not. This was the difference between the humans and the winged men. It was quite big. I understand. Lin Feng nodded. He was indeed interested in Origin Awakening continent. He knew why he came to the Tung Chi continent, to surpass the black hole experts. The Milky Way had begun to decline. It had less than 11 eras of lifespan left. He did not have much time left. Although he had reached the peak of the Black Domain Master Realm, he was still a long way from surpassing the black hole experts. This distance was not easy to cross. After returning to his residence, Lin Feng received the best treatment from the Yurin clan. He lived in the core of Yurin City. No one could disturb him, and there were Yurin experts in charge of guarding him. He could even enter and exit the precious Yurin secret realm freely. Towards Lin Feng, the Yurin clan did everything they could to win him over, or rather, curry favor with him. Are you willing to submit? Lin Feng looked calmly at the mad, mist-winged monarch who was kept in the heaven-catching net. The latter's face was pale, and his downtrodden appearance did not look like a top expert of the northern continent. Bah, you want me to submit to you? Stop dreaming. The mad mist-winged monarch cursed. I don't have anything, but I have a backbone. Human, don't be wishful thinking. As he spoke, the mad mist-winged monarch turned his head and closed his eyes with a look of disdain. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. He did not care. It's up to you. It doesn't matter whether you have or not. Lin Feng said, let me tell you something. I will be heading to Origin Awakening continent soon. The mad mist-winged monarch's body moved slightly, and the corner of his eyes twitched. Lin Feng saw this and said slowly, don't blame me for not reminding you. If I fall in Origin Awakening continent, you will be imprisoned in the treasure for the rest of your life. You will be better off dead. Swish! Cold sweat dripped down the mad mist-winged monarch. Imprisoned for the rest of his life, unable to move. With his strength, he did not need to eat or drink, and his body could be self-sufficient. But in this terrifying net, the more he struggled, the tighter it would be. He could not even commit suicide. If it was really like what this human said, thinking of this, the mad mist-winged monarch shuddered and said, let me go. I don't want to die with you. Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. Are you deaf? I said I will be heading to Origin Awakening continent soon, not die soon. What's the difference? The Mad Mistwing monarch opened his bloodshot eyes and said angrily, "You lunatic, if you want to die, that's your problem. Don't drag me down with you. Don't think that you're so powerful. With your strength, you won't even know how you died in Origin Awakening continent." Is that so? Lin Feng was even more curious in his heart. Nonsense. The Mad Mistwing monarch roared. Ignorant human. Origin Awakening continent's winged people all have the highest bloodline of the 8 wings. There are many stronger than the 3 winged emperors. You? Humph. Ignorant. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Hearing you say this, I am even more interested. You bastard." The Mad Mistwing monarch's face flushed red. He was furious. "Are you crazy?" Lin Feng looked at the Mad Mistwing monarch. "If you want to become strong, you cannot be afraid of challenges." The Mad Mistwing monarch was stunned. Lin Feng said slowly, "Death is not scary. If an expert does not even have the courage to challenge, then it is too sad. He is not worthy to be an expert. I will give you time to think about it." After saying this, Lin Feng turned and left. Chapter 1660. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry. It was good that the frenzied Mistwing monarch was willing to submit, but it didn't matter if he didn't. He wasn't lying to the frenzied Mistwing monarch. In terms of strength, he was indeed stronger than Wu Jin, but that was only because Wu Jin's strength was sealed. Once Wu Jin was unsealed, not only would she be stronger than the frenzied Mistwing monarch, but she would also be stronger than him. As for the Golden Flame Old Demon, there was no need to talk about him. "You're in Secret Realm?" Lin Feng smiled in surprise and looked at Yushui. "Yes, to show her sincerity, Brother Lin can enter the Yu-Rin Secret Realm at will and read any books of the Yu-Rin clan." Yushui smiled sincerely. "I hope Brother Lin can erase the misunderstanding from before." Lin Feng nodded and smiled non-committally. Okay, how could he not know what Yushui meant? Rather than saying it was an apology, it was better to say that Yushui wanted him to stay in Yurin City as a city protection talisman. The misunderstanding was just an excuse. However, there was no need to keep others 1,000 miles away. It was a win-win situation, and he didn't have any deep hatred with the Yurin clan, so there was no harm in giving Yushui some face. "Many thanks," Yushui said meaningfully. After chatting for a while, Yushui left. As the temporary city lord of Yurin City, he had too many things to do after the battle. It was something I couldn't ask for before, but now it's within my reach. Lin Feng sighed. Wasn't the contribution point mission for the Yu-Rin Secret Realm? In the end, he discovered a secret realm that was suppressed by space. There wasn't much difference between the two. The Yu-Rin Secret Realm leaned more toward the immortal chaos whole, and it was easier to comprehend the elementary true meaning of space and become a black domain master. However, it wasn't very useful to him now. It couldn't increase his strength or strengthen his battle prowess. However, the Yurin clan's books were quite useful. After all, the Yurin clan had stood on the Tongqi continent for so many eras and had witnessed the rise and fall of the human race. Filled with curiosity, Lin Feng quickly entered the Ancient Records building and immersed himself within, browsing through the numerous ancient records. What he was most interested in was the information about the Origin Awakened continent, which was also the central continent. The books had a lot of records. The Tongqi continent used to have races like the Holy Lights race and the Dwarf race, but as time passed, they had disappeared. The Clan's continent. Although all kinds of elemental energies were active in the Tongqi continent, the most active and shocking one was the space elemental law of Empyrean rank. The continents, a result of society's was. Their talents would be put to good use here sooner or later. The Chan River Yao clan was only able to maintain a peaceful land because of the existence of the Chan River. As for the humans, they were the most well-rounded in all aspects. They were the most intelligent and adaptable. Coupled with their strong reproductive ability, they had been able to survive until now. However, the records of Origin Awakened continent are still too little. Lin Feng shook his head lightly. Estes. Had SB. But one thing was for sure, The heaven and earth energy there was the strongest. It was the best place in the entire Tongchi continent. Lin Feng knew that the northern continents. It was the smallest and most remote, so the strongest could only be a black domain master. It was difficult to become a top black domain master. But the eastern, southern, and western continents were different. One could become a top black domain master there. Even the clans had many top black domain masters. Not to mention the origin awakened continent. It's at least 10 times stronger than the eastern continent. Lin Feng frowned slightly as he guessed in his heart. The 3 winged emperors were already so powerful, so what kind of expert was stronger than them? Top black domain masters invincible. King of the black domain? Or an existence beyond the black hole level? Lin Feng knew it wasn't likely. After all, each world had its own rules. It was unthinkable for an existence beyond the black hole level to be born on a planet, unless this world was stronger than the black hole level. But was it possible? No matter what, if I can enter the origin awakened continent, it will be much clearer. Lin Feng was also looking forward to it, not because of his strength, but because of his curiosity. There were countless experts waiting for him to challenge them. His strength could greatly increase in a short time. After all, he didn't have much time left. 11 eras. It seemed very long, but it was actually a very short time for the Black Domain Master. The Black Domain Master's lifespan was much longer than this. However, he still had too little information on the Origin Awakened continent. On the other hand, the Mad Mistwing Monarch had been unwilling to cooperate, so it was difficult to get any information from him. Lin Feng muttered to himself. He glanced at Yu Cheng, whom he had not seen for a long time. Yu Cheng was clearly very happy to see him. Her curved and slender eyebrows were raised, and she arrived in a flash. "Big Brother Lin," Yu Cheng affectionately shouted. "You're also looking for books?" Lin Feng asked with a smile. Yu Cheng smiled sweetly and nodded. "I want to look for books that record the comprehension of space." "What about you, Big Brother Lin?" "Just looking around." Lin Feng closed the book in his hand and put it back on the bookshelf. Yu Cheng's sharp eyes saw the book and said in surprise, "So Big Brother Lin is looking for information on the Origin Awakened continent?" Lin Feng lightly nodded. "Unfortunately, there aren't many records here." "All right, do you know where to find such books? Does the Crushing Thunder Clan have them?" It should be about the same as ours. We humans definitely don't have as many books as the Winged Clan." Yu Cheng said, "Big Brother Lin, didn't you catch a Winged Clan person? Can't you just ask him?" "Winged Clan?" Lin Feng muttered. He knew that the Winged Clan knew a lot about the Origin Awakened continent, but they were enemies, not friends. How could he find them? Unless the Mad Mistwing Monarch was willing to cooperate, there was nothing he could do. Yu Cheng tilted her head slightly and smiled sweetly. "Big Brother Lin, you're so powerful. Who in the Northern Continent's Winged Clan is your opponent? Why don't you just ask them directly? If anyone dares to not tell you, just beat them up." Lin Feng was startled. Yu Cheng's words were crude, but reasonable. Yu Cheng was right. Why do I have to be so cautious? He couldn't afford to offend the Winged Clan people of the other 3 continents, but the strongest Winged Clan person in the Northern Continent was the cool, strange Winged Monarch. Why do I have to be afraid of him? He thought too much and limited himself instead. Yu Cheng, on the other hand, was a bystander. "Many thanks." Lin Feng smiled gratefully at Yu Cheng and left. Instead of wasting time here, he might as well go straight to the Dragon Pool and ask the cool, strange Winged Monarch. Chapter 1661. In Yurin City. "Senior brother, have you seen Brother Lin?" Yu Jing walked over. Brother Lin. Yu Shui, who was busy, stopped and looked at Yu Jing. "Maybe he's in the secret territory or the ancient records building." "Neither." Yu Jing shrugged. "Oh," Yu Shui replied with a smile. "Then maybe he went out or went into seclusion. An otherworldly expert like him is always unpredictable. We can't predict his actions." "Maybe," Yu Jing said helplessly. "I still want to ask him for some advice." "There's always a chance." Yu Shui said, "As long as Brother Lin is in Yurin City, you'll find time." Yu Jing smiled. "If I can get some advice from Brother Lin, I'll be able to reach a higher level and be on par with you." Yu Shui shook his head and said, What's the point of being on the same level as me? If you really go to the battlefield, you won't be able to achieve anything. You need to learn from Master and learn from Brother Lin. If such a day comes, then you will be amazing. Be on par with Brother Lin? Senior brother, please forgive me. I'm not as strong as him. Yu Jing sighed. He looks younger than junior sister, but he already has such strength. His potential is beyond monstrous. If there's a will, there's a way. Don't give up. There's always a chance. Yu Shui comforted. I hope so. Yu Jing smiled. He was also an optimistic person. While they were talking, junior sister Yu Chung came over with a smile. Junior sister, you're always in the city. Have you seen Brother Lin? Yu Jing looked over and asked casually. Brother Lin? I've seen him. Yu Chung smiled. Really? Yu Jing raised his eyebrows and said in surprise. Where is he? I have something to talk to him about. Brother Lin should be in the winged people's territory now. Yu Cheng's words did not stop until they were shocked to death. She said to the two dumbfounded senior brothers, he's going to find the king of cool and strange wings to ask about something. The winged people's territory? Ask the king of cool and strange wings something? Yu Shui and Yu Jing were stunned. What was going on? Did they hear it wrong? No way. Yu Jing was stunned. Yu Chung said, It's true. I was the one who suggested Big Brother Lin to go. Your suggestion? Yu Shui's mouth twitched. Yu Ching nodded. Of course. That king of cool and strange wings is no match for Big Brother Lin. What's there to be afraid of? With Big Brother Lin's strength, who in the northern continent can be his match? Could it be that you're afraid that the winged ones will capture Big Brother Lin? Yu Ching chuckled. If they were that powerful, they wouldn't have lost to us humans. Yu Shui and Yu Jing looked at each other. That's right. With Brother Lin's strength, it seemed that he really didn't care about the Winged Men clan. Just like what Junior Sister had said, although the northern continent was huge, was there any place that he couldn't go? He could not be treated as an ordinary human being. Perhaps, other than the most mysterious northern king domain in the North River, Brother Lin can enter and leave as he pleases? Yu Jing asked. That's right. The Winged One's territory isn't that big of a deal, Yu Shui said with a smile. Just like what Yu Chung had said, Lin Feng had arrived at the Winged One's territory. The Winged One's territory was located at the center of the northern continent. It was where the essence of the northern continent gathered, and where the elemental spatial energy was the most active. The territory was divided into two. The left side was the territory of the Mad Mistwing Monarch, and the right side was the territory of the Cool and Strange Wings Monarch. Right now, the left side of the territory was empty. Not a single Winged One's expert could be seen. The right side of the territory was very full. Winged One's experts could be seen coming and going from time to time. It was very lively and lively. Compared to the left side of the territory, the difference was obvious. Lin Feng knew that this was because he had captured the Mad Mistwing Monarch. The left side of the territory was leaderless. However, his target this time was not the left side of the territory. Since the Mad Mistwing Monarch had been captured, there was no point in entering the left side of the territory. He directly went to the right side of the territory to look for the Cool and Strange Wings Monarch. Lin Feng's appearance caused a commotion. A human? Isn't he that monstrous human? After the battle in Yurin City, Lin Feng's name shook the northern continent. Not only did the human experts in Yurin City recognize him, but the Winged Ones also firmly remembered this terrifying expert. He fought two winged monarchs consecutively, turned the tide, and forced the Winged One's army to retreat. Such a human had never appeared before. Swish! Clang! Chi! The six Winged Ones looked as if they were facing a great enemy. They huddled together and looked at Lin Feng nervously and fearfully. Although there were close to 100 Winged Ones, every one of them felt insecure. It was as if they were defenseless. The unforgettable memory of that battle was deeply engraved in the minds of the Winged One's army. Too powerful. Please inform them that the human Lin Feng wishes to meet the Cool and Strange Wings Monarch. Lin Feng did not take the initiative to start the battle. After all, this was the other party's territory. It was better to use peaceful means before using force. Moreover, he did not waste his energy here. If he really wanted to barge in, he would have to kill countless winged ones. Even if he had no problem with his strength, there was no need to offend the winged ones and form a deadly feud. You wish to meet the monarch? The leader of the six winged ones was stunned. They naturally understood Lin Feng's words because Lin Feng spoke the pure winged one's language. Yes, please inform them. Lin Feng nodded. The leader of the six winged ones discussed with the other winged ones for a while. He looked over cautiously and fearfully and said in a deep voice, "Please wait a moment." There was still some fear in his tone. Lin Feng had left a deep and painful mark on the winged ones that day. Although he came alone, every winged one believed that he alone was enough to turn the entire territory upside down. Okay, Lin Feng answered and stayed outside peacefully. He waited patiently. He knew that the cool and strange wings monarch would definitely meet him. Compared to the stubbornness of the mad mist wings monarch, the cool and strange wings monarch had two different personalities. It was easier to communicate with such winged ones. Sure enough, after a short while, the leader of the six winged ones arrived. "This way, please." Very respectfully, the leader of the six winged ones led the way in front. Lin Feng followed closely and soon entered the territory of the winged ones. A faint aura circulated outside his body. Although he was very sure, Lin Feng still believed in himself, just in case. No one knew what would happen in the next second. It was better to prepare for a rainy day. They entered the hall. The journey was smooth, without any obstacles. Lin Feng pushed open the door. In front of him was a familiar face. Seeing his arrival, the cool and strange wings monarch smiled. "Ha! Human Lin Feng, I wonder what wind blew you here." The cool and strange wings monarch stood up to welcome him. "I have something to do." Lin Feng made a long story short. "Oh," the cool and strange wings monarch asked curiously. "I want to know all the information about the origin awakening continent." Lin Feng looked at the cool and strange wings monarch with bright eyes. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1662. Come, Brother Lin Feng, please take a seat. The cool strange wings monarch did not seem surprised by Lin Feng's arrival at all. He greeted him warmly with a smile. Not like an enemy at all, but an old friend who had not seen each other for a long time. Lin Feng took a deep look at the cool strange wings monarch and sat down. The cool strange wings monarch dismissed his attendants with a normal expression, as if he was not wary of Lin Feng at all. The huge hall was empty, and there was an interesting atmosphere in the air. Not long ago, they were still fighting to the death, but now they were gathered together happily. "Actually, I guessed that you would come," the cool strange wings monarch said with a smile. "What?" Lin Feng was curious. The cool strange wings monarch smiled and said, "Because you are like me, you want to improve yourself and are not satisfied with the status quo." Lin Feng smiled. "No one will complain about being too strong." The cool strange wings monarch nodded. "In the northern continent, the possibility of me becoming the wing monarch is very small. My potential has almost been excavated to the limit. Only by entering the origin awakened continent can I have hope." "Why not choose to go to other continents?" Lin Feng asked. The cool strange wings monarch said, "I come from a southern continent and belong to the black wing monarch, so I can only go to the southern continent if I want to go back. This is an unwritten rule of our wing race." Lin Feng stared at the cool strange wings monarch. "You have a grudge with the black wing monarch?" "It's not a grudge," the cool strange wings monarch said indifferently. "When you can decide what you want to do and not be restricted, you will not want to be a pawn of other wing race people, even if he is the wing monarch." Lin Feng nodded. Simply put, it was freedom. "So how can I help you?" Lin Feng asked. He had no relationship with the cool strange wings monarch, and they were not friends. He obviously had other motives for telling him this. "Help me defeat the Guardian," the cool strange wings monarch said directly. "Guardian?" Lin Feng was slightly surprised. The cool strange wings monarch said, "Although our wing race is the strongest race in the Tongqi continent, there are strict rules to enter the origin awakened continent. Only by defeating the Guardian can we open the origin awakened gate." Soon after, the cool and strange wings king explained the whole story in detail. Lin Feng quickly understood. Actually, it was very simple. As long as the winged race's combat power reached the pinnacle of the Black Region Master Realm, they could challenge the Guardians and enter the Origin Awakened continent. This protector was not a winged person, but the beast spirit of the Source Enlightened Gate. Only by defeating it would the Origin Awakening Gate open. Kuanglan and I tried before, but we failed. The cool and strange wings monarch looked at Lin Feng. You should know his strength. He is much weaker than you. If you and I join forces, the chances of defeating the Guardian are very high. What's in it for me? Lin Feng asked. The cool and strange wings king seemed to be prepared. Don't you want to know some information and secrets of the Origin Awakening continent? I can tell you everything I know, in full detail, without hiding anything. Lin Feng sighed. There was no need for the cool and strange wings king to lie to him. To both of them, this was a matter of mutual benefit. However, can you answer a few questions for me first? Lin Feng asked. Please speak, the cool and strange wings king said. What kind of strength can cross the Origin Awakening Sea? Lin Feng asked. The threshold of a top-notch Black Domain Master is 10%. A perfect top-notch Black Domain Master is 30%. A peak top-notch Black Domain Master is 80%. And an invincible top-notch Black Domain Master is 99%. The cool and strange wings king replied. Lin Feng frowned slightly. The probability was much lower than he imagined. In other words, the strongest mutated beast in the Origin Awakening Sea is the invincible top-notch Black Domain Master? Lin Feng asked. Yes, the cool and strange wings king said. As far as I know, there is no Black Domain King in the Origin Awakening Sea. In theory, a top-notch Black Domain Master is invincible and can easily cross it. But in fact, as long as a peak top-notch Black Domain Master is not too unlucky, they can cross it. Then what about me now? Lin Feng asked. Less than 3%. The cool and strange wings king glanced at Lin Feng. I'm not exaggerating. It's not just you. It's the same for me. Lin Feng nodded. He and the cool and strange wings king have fought before and know each other's strength. His main body's current combat power is at the peak of the Black Domain Master realm and is still one level away from the threshold of a top-notch Black Domain Master. Even the Tyrant Dragon clone barely meets the threshold of a top-notch Black Domain Master. The success rate of breaking through the Origin Awakening Sea is only 10%. Is there any way for me to enter the Origin Awakening continent? Lin Feng asked. Cross the Origin Awakening Sea, the cool and strange wings king said. Lin Feng smiled and said meaningfully, there should be a second way. The cool and strange wings king frowned and said with a wry smile, You're not thinking of using me, are you? Lin Feng shrugged. I believe that this Origin Awakening Gate should not only be used by the winged race. That's true. I can take you in, but if you pass through the Origin Awakening Gate, your identity will be exposed. The cool and strange wings king thought for a long time and shook his head. At that time, I will be in a lot of trouble. Then it seems that we can't cooperate. Lin Feng got up and turned to leave. Wait. The cool and strange wings king called out to Lin Feng, a look of struggle on his face. Lin Feng did not turn around and said slowly, Since you have chosen to enter the Origin Awakening continent, it doesn't matter whether you betrayed the winged race or not, because you will not return. But only one person can enter the Origin Awakening Gate at a time. The cool and strange wings king said with a frown. You go first. I will enter later, Lin Feng said. The cool and strange wings king was surprised. You can go alone? The strength of the Guardian is close to the threshold of a top-notch Black Domain Master. Yes, Lin Feng said. Give me some time. How long? The cool and strange wings king asked. I will come to find you again. After saying this, Lin Feng did not say anything else and directly opened the door and left. He already knew what he needed to know. If he could enter through the Origin Awakening Gate with the cool and strange wings king, Lin Feng naturally did not want to cross the Origin Awakening Sea. After all, the danger was too great, and he could not pin his hopes on luck. The Guardian, Lin Feng pondered. If he and the cool and strange wings king could defeat it, then he and the T-Rex clone could do the same. However, there was no need to be so anxious right now. Seeing that the cool and strange wings king was still hesitating, he might as well leave him hanging for now. The one who needed his help now was him. There are many ancient races in the Origin Awakening continent, such as the Holy Light race, the Dwarf race, and the Demon race. Lin Feng thought. According to what King Kikiki said, there is even the existence of the king of the Black region. There are countless top-notch Black domain masters. With my current strength, it will be very dangerous to enter. The most important thing now is to raise my strength to the bottleneck. It won't be too late to enter then. Lin Feng returned to Yurin City. He still had a lot of room for improvement, so there was no need to enter in such a hurry. To read the latest novel, please visit Chapter 1663. After returning to Yurin City, Lin Feng buried himself in the Yurin race's ancient records building. After all, they were an ancient race that had been passed down for countless eras. There were many ancient records in the Yurin race's ancient records building, including all kinds of law comprehension experiences, law secret techniques, and so on. This was the strength of humans. Humans had always been known for their intelligence. They were not as compatible with nature as the demon race's body, nor were they as strong as the demon race's body in power usage. However, humans were well-balanced in all aspects. They could use their intelligence to their limits, and their perception was even more outstanding. Every race had their own areas of expertise. However, Lin Feng was strong in his body and power realm, which made him a little like the demon race. In truth, the main body's talent was quite good. Apart from the divine emblems of light, divine emblems of darkness, and the black vortex, the main body's attainments in the heavenly cultivation realm and the soul were also quite strong. With the Tyrant Dragon clone's current status in the North River, he could use his power for personal gain. His main body could raise his strength to a huge level in a short period of time. Treasures and talent were all ready. He only lacked a place to cultivate. Cultivating laws, I can enter the Yurin mystic realm. Cultivating other things, I can enter the River King Hall. Lin Feng already had a complete plan in his heart. He was already doing well in the North Continent and could use almost all the resources. The Yurin mystic realm had the strongest elemental laws, and the River King Hall had many similar time mystic realms that could save him a lot of time. He might not be able to surpass the Tyrant Dragon clone in a short period of time, but he should be able to get close or even be on par with it. However, he could not be sure of the exact time. Hence, he did not set a date with the cool strange wings monarch. Anyway, he was the one who was anxious, not him. Lin Feng quickly entered a state of cultivation. Basically, he was running between the Yurin mystic realm and the ancient records building. Other than cultivating laws and secret techniques, he also comprehended various elementary spatial true meanings. It was too difficult to comprehend intermediate spatial true meanings or even advanced spatial true meanings all at once. Everything had to be done step by step. Although elementary spatial true meanings did not help much in battle, this was the foundation. The more solid the foundation was, the easier it would be to comprehend spatial true meanings in the future, and the easier it would be to control them. The black whirlpool in his bloodline was a very unremarkable existence. However, it was better than the light and dark divine patterns. Not only was it extremely useful in battle, but it could also help in cultivation. Because of the uniqueness of the Tung Chi continent, Lin Feng knew that this planet was something he had never heard of before. In the black area that his teacher True Dragon King controlled, there were countless planets, but he had never seen a planet like this. The spatial energy was so powerful. Furthermore, the energy of the planet could reach the level of the king of the dark domain. This was a planet, not a galaxy. This meant that the Tung Chi continent was comparable to a super black hole. Even if the Milky Way was destroyed and the black hole collapsed, the Tung Chi continent would not perish. Mysteries are often accompanied by secrets. I believe we'll be able to obtain the answers to these secrets in Origin Awakened Continent. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. Step by step, he improved himself. With the tyrant dragon clone abusing his power for personal gain and the light of the river he obtained from the North River, his understanding of the various aspects of light increased at an extremely fast pace. As for the light of the river of darkness, North River did not have it. However, he had obtained quite a number of black willow, the wisps in the past. While he might not be able to increase the power of all 6 darkness elemental Daos, it would not be a problem for him to increase one of them. Dark magic. It was supplemented by 6 light, great Daos. As for the lightning great Daos, he did not consider it at the moment. His strength had reached the peak of the Black Area Master. Lin Feng's comprehension of the elemental laws was quite fast, and his life rating was strong enough. The 7 great Daos were all sprinting toward perfection. The comprehension of each law represented an increase in life rating and a fundamental transformation of the body and soul. In addition, he was refining the remaining 20% of the demon core. His dark magic was also becoming stronger. Compared to the 6 light, great Daos, the comprehension and combat power of the dark magic were the strongest. After all, the demon core itself contained many powerful laws and secret techniques. After refining it, they would all belong to him. Time passed extremely quickly. In the first 100 years, the Tao of Light reached perfection. In the second 100 years, the dark magic and light, great Daos reached perfection. In the fourth and fifth 100 years, the light, great Daos and light, great Daos also improved. In the 1000th year, all 6 light, great Daos had reached perfection. This was because he had enough top-notch river light. If he relied on his own cultivation, he might not be able to comprehend them even after 1,000 years. A total of 6 light, great Daos. In addition to the dark magic great Daos, a total of 7 great Daos had reached perfection. Not to mention that it was unprecedented. Lin Feng's comprehension and foundation were already quite terrifying. His attainments in the light great Daos were almost at the peak. Generally speaking, the great Daos of light, great Daos reaching perfection was the limit. This was because perfection was very rare. Going from perfection to perfection was like the difference between heaven and earth. There was a huge difference. The two were on completely different levels. Perfection represented complete comprehension of the great Daos of light, great Daos. It cannot be forced. It's about time. Lin Feng was not greedy. It was enough for him to comprehend the laws. Perfection was too far away for him. Instead of improving the great Daos of light individually, he might as well fuse the 6 light, great Daos. However, in terms of combat power, the fusion would be even stronger. Completing the first stage of fusion will allow me to surpass perfection. Lin Feng was very clear. This was because he had seen this stage of fusion before. Every attack contained the power of 6 laws. The combat power would naturally surpass a single one. The second stage of fusion is to combine 6 laws into one. This stage was much more difficult. Fusing the 6 laws into one. It was said that this stage was comparable to the power of perfection. There's also the third stage, where the 6 great Daos of light complement each other and display their strongest advantage. They're like gears that are tightly connected. At this time, the power can surpass perfection. Legend has it that there's a 4th stage. Lin Feng smiled. Perfection was strong, but fusion was the mainstream in terms of combat power. However, fusion was more time-consuming than comprehension and required creativity. It was even more difficult to fuse by oneself. Other martial artists fused 1 or 2 great Daos of light, great Daos. He had fused 6 great Daos of light, great Daos. The difficulty was more than 10 times higher. However, I have a lot of time. Lin Feng left Yurin City. He did not need to worry about the current Yurin City. Although 1,000 years had passed, and the Yurin Emperor still had not appeared, he had already reached a tacit understanding with the Wing King. The humans and the Wingman clan lived in harmony and did not interfere with each other. As for the Mad Mist Wing King, he was still stubborn and refused to give in. He headed to the Northern King region. There, he had enough time to squander in the secret realm to help with the fusion. To read the latest novel, please visit Chapter 1664. Under the rule of eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng, North River changed with each passing day. 1,000 years had passed, and the decline had long been washed away. Prosperity had been restored. Although 2 of the 3 most powerful experts had died, the current purple lightning was even more powerful than Yamajin in the past. There was also a large number of new river Yao experts born. Under Lin Feng's careful nurturing, Violet Electric had reached the peak of the Black Domain Master Realm. She was talented and was now North River's strongest expert. Now, Northern River had 6 peak-level Black Domain Masters, an increase of 4 compared to before. There were countless people who had advanced to the Black Region Master Realm. Originally, the North Kings had treasured their treasures, afraid that other river monsters would be stronger than them. That was why eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng had rebelled. But Lin Feng was different. He wasn't afraid of the river monsters becoming stronger. He was afraid that they wouldn't be strong enough. Peak Chaos Treasure Brilliant Sage Armor, Tao of Halos. Peak Chaos Treasure Swift Cloud Boots, Tao of Light. Peak Chaos Treasure Divine Shine Helmet, Tao of Light. Tang Wanfeng gave the Peak Chaos Treasures to Lin Feng's main body. These were all peak light-type chaos treasures she had collected over the past 1,000 years. North River didn't have many other treasures, but it had plenty of light-type treasures. Although they didn't have any supreme treasures, an entire set of peak light-type chaos treasures was already incredible. After equipping the Tyrant Dragon avatar, he continued to equip his main body. Lin Feng didn't hesitate. If a worker wanted to do a good job, he had to first sharpen his tools. There was no harm in equipping himself as much as possible before entering Origin Awakened Continent. These peak chaos treasures were enough for him to use until he surpassed the Black Hole Realm. As for the peak fusion chaos treasures, he didn't need to worry about them. The North King Palace had plenty of time secret realms. Apart from not being able to comprehend the heavenly Daos, everything else could be done, including reading books, familiarizing himself with treasures, fusing the heavenly Daos, training his saber, and so on. For an expert like Lin Feng, who wasn't afraid of being alone, that was the best cultivation ground. During his journey to become the King of the North, he had entered it twice. After tens of thousands of years of bitter cultivation, he had finally succeeded. It could be said that the Time's secret realms played an important role. Let's do it again. Hua! The surroundings were silent and white. But to Lin Feng, it was exceptionally familiar. Not only did he not feel any discomfort, he even got used to it. Not long after, he was immersed in his own cultivation state. Milky Way territory. There was also Lin Feng's true dragon avatar, which was 50% of his soul. Unlike the original body in the ancient Myriad World Secret Realm, which was good at close combat, the original body in the Milky Way galaxy was good at soul attacks. After refining the peak chaos hole profound treasure Luo Sheng realm, the Milky Way galaxy's true dragon avatar had extraordinary battle prowess. 1,000 years flew by. Although it couldn't be compared to the original body in the Tengqi continent, it was already a big shot in the Milky Way. With Lin Feng in charge of the Milky Way territory, no forces dared to provoke them. China on Earth was even more prosperous, and its population had long exceeded 1 trillion. Your Majesty, please wait for a moment. Master will be out soon. Xiao Yu, who was fully armed, spoke in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. He bowed and left. He didn't have any chaotic whole mysterious treasures in his possession, and he only had saber. This kid looks familiar. Qin Wushou raised his eyebrows. He was dressed in a golden robe. He is the disciple of the Milky Way horde leader, Xiao Yu. He was once the champion of the Dongwang genius battle. Qin Qing is said. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a faint light. No wonder. Qin Wushou understood and laughed. Indeed, a great master produces a great disciple. Isn't that so, father? Qin Yushu smiled. The Milky Way horde leader's name has spread far and wide in the past 1,000 years. The Saint Kings from the 7 empires who came to challenge him all returned in defeat. He still has an undefeated golden body. How can his disciple be weak? Qin Wushou glanced at Qin Yushu. You still have the nerve to say that. You were on the same level as the Milky Way Horde leader. Look at you now. Qin Yushu laughed. She was extremely thick-skinned. Father, you said that as an emperor, it's enough to know how to use people well. One's own cultivation is secondary. Charisma is the most important, isn't it? Qin Wushou snorted and didn't refute. His talent and potential are unprecedented, Qin Qing'er said softly. There was a trace of loneliness in her voice. Not only Qin Yushu, but she and Lin Feng were also of the same generation. Now, there was a huge gap between them, and the gap was constantly widening. While they were talking, you guys are exaggerating too much. What do you mean by unprecedented? Lin Feng walked out with a smile. Xiao Yu followed behind him with his blade. He glanced at Qin Qing'er and smiled. Qing'er, after your bloodline was activated, you are also a Saint King. But compared to you, I'm still far away. Qin Qing'er said softly. I'm just a little luckier than you. Lin Feng smiled modestly and didn't ask further. He looked at Qin Wushou and Prince Yushu. What brings you two here? He came from the 100 Saints Martial Palace and was a close friend of Prince Yushu. Therefore, he was also familiar with the monarch. After the secret lands of the ancient Thousand Worlds were closed, Prince Yushu gradually built up his prestige with his help and was carefully cultivated by Qin Wushou. Now, he was officially appointed as the next monarch, but he lacked experience. Therefore, Qin Wushou still didn't give him the throne. However, it was only a matter of time. I have something to tell you, Qin Yushu said seriously after greeting Lin Feng. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. Prince Yushu's expression showed that it was obviously not a small matter. Let my father tell you. Qin Yushu hesitated and said. Lin Feng let out a soft, "Oh," and his gaze fell on Qin Wushuang. Now, he no longer had the domineering aura he had when they first met. Instead, he appeared kind, like an old man who is satisfied with his current situation. Actually, it is not a big deal. Qin Wushou laughed heartily. This time, I came here mainly to meet the legendary figure of our Dongwang Empire, the Milky Way Horde leader. Lin Feng let out a soft, and laughed involuntarily. I'm flattered. Qin Wushou said, heroes come from young. Your deeds have long been known in the Dongwang Empire, especially the history of your prestige in the secret lands of the ancient Thousand Worlds. It is even more interesting. Haha, I am old, and my brain is not so bright. I digress. Lin Feng laughed. Qin Wushou paused and said, in fact, this is not a sudden thing. The super black hole has entered the decline period, and the Milky Way is about to be destroyed. You should know that there are less than 11 eras left. Lin Feng nodded. That was why he entered the Tongqi continent without hesitation. But recently, after more than 1,000 years of observation, we found that the situation may not be as optimistic as we thought. Qin Wushou smiled. Oh, Lin Feng's eyelids twitched. He frowned and said, how long is it not so optimistic? Qin Wushou stretched out a finger and said, less than 1 era. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1665. The First Era. Lin Feng was shocked. Compared to the previous 11 eras, not only was the time 10 times shorter, but it was also imminent. It was as if they were about to reach the end of a long journey. It can't be. Lin Feng's expression turned serious. However, he knew that since Qin Wushou had said it, it should be close to the truth. The 7 empires have already confirmed it. Qin Wushou seemed very calm, as if he had already thought it through. He laughed and said, actually, the First Era and the 11th Era are not much different. Lin Feng pondered. For someone of Qin Wushou's age, 10 eras was indeed nothing, but it was completely different for him. Right now, he was about to enter the Origin Awakening continent, the most mysterious core area of the Tongqi continent. He had the chance to make another breakthrough in the 11th era. Even if there was not a 50% chance, there was at least a 10% to 20% chance. However, there was only 1 era left. What could he do? Less than 10,000 years was just a blink of an eye for the Dark Region Master. He had cultivated for more than 10,000 years in the Time's secret realm. Even if he entered the Origin Awakening continent, what could he do in 10,000 years? What could he change? His heart sank to the bottom. Lin Feng was not afraid of death. He was not afraid of the destruction of the Milky Way galaxy. He had the ability to deal with it, including his family. However, what about the other people of China and the other people of the Dongwang Empire? Furthermore, seeing his hometown perish just like that, he felt as if his roots had been cut off. Phew! Lin Feng sighed softly. There was a hint of worry between his brows. Are you okay, Brother Lin? Qin Yushu asked. I'm fine. Lin Feng shook his head and sighed. It's just that this news was too sudden. I was caught off guard. The sudden news completely disrupted his original plan. It's nothing. Everything has a beginning and an end. Be content. Qin Wushou seemed to have seen through many things. Qin Yushu's mouth twitched, but she still said to Lin Feng, Father has decided not to leave. Lin Feng was shocked. Although there were few top-level defensive chaotic hole treasures in the Milky Way, the Dongwang Empire was one of the most powerful empires. As the monarch, Qin Wushou could even take out 10 top-level defensive treasures, let alone one. It was easy for him to leave the Milky Way and enter the universe. I grew up on this land. This is my home. Qin Wushuang's eyes flashed as he said lightly, Life is not short or short, only exciting or not. In this life, I am already satisfied and have nothing to worry about. Plus, at my age, even if I enter the universe, I would just embarrass myself. Qin Wushou laughed self-deprecatingly. It would be better to stay in this homeland where I was born and raised. To me, this is the best home, the most perfect ending. Lin Feng looked at Qin Wushou. He was very clear-headed. He could clearly feel what he was saying and his current state of mind. Although he might not understand it very well, he knew that he had seen through everything in the world, including birth, old age, illness, and death. That was why he had made such a decision. Everyone had their own choice. It did not matter whether it was good or bad. He could only face it sincerely. His own heart. The sudden news disrupted Lin Feng's plan. However, this did not make him discouraged. Instead, it accelerated his cultivation. Lin Feng grew up in this kind of stressful environment. In the face of pressure, the weak would become weaker, and the strong would only become stronger. In the North Continent, Lin Feng now not only had enough power, but also abundant resources. In the Wingmen clan, the Mad Mist Wing King had been captured, and the cool Strange Wing King had annexed all his territory and subordinates. Now, the most powerful force in the North Continent was undoubtedly the Wingmen, led by the cool Strange Wing King. But they were secretly cooperating with Lin Feng. In the Human clan, although the Yuren city was controlled by the Yuren clan, the most famous person was Lin Feng, who had already become the new Yuren city lord. The relationship between the Yuren clan and Lin Feng was very complicated. On one hand, they needed to borrow Lin Feng's power to protect Yuren city. On the other hand, they were in awe of Lin Feng's strength. In addition, Lin Feng was the hero of the human race. If they were disrespectful to him, they would be enemies with the entire human race. Even if the Yuren clan had 10,000 guts, they would not dare to offend Lin Feng. As for the Northern River, there was no need to talk about it. The first princess, Tang Wanfeng, was completely obedient to Lin Feng. It could be said that in the current North Continent, Lin Feng was like an emperor. He could get whatever he wanted. However, this was only the North Continent. The most remote and weakest region of the 4 great continents, the North Continent, which had been abandoned by the 3 great continents as a training ground, could not be compared to the other 3 great continents. It was even more different from the most mysterious origin awakening continent of the Tengqi continent. Lin Feng's goal was very clear. He wanted to head to the origin awakening continent. Only by entering the legendary origin awakening continent with mysterious power would he be able to save the Milky Way. I've already grasped all 6 peak Chaos Dark treasures. I can now practice the spatial treasure cross returns to 0. In the Time Mystic realm, Lin Feng spent a total of 5,000 years to master the 6 peak light-type Chaos Dark treasures. He had raised his battle strength by an entire level. Compared to light-type Chaos Dark treasures, spatial dark treasures were much harder to master. Even though his spatial talent had improved a lot and he had the Black Vortex, it was still incomparable to the light divine rune bloodline in his body. Another 5,000 years passed. The second level of cross returns to 0. Lin Feng put away the cross returns to 0 with satisfaction. The first level of attack and the second level of control. The cross returns to 0 had many uses. Although he had better spatial dark treasures, it was too difficult for him to use them with his spatial talent. The most suitable one was the best. In the time mystic realm, Lin Feng once again cultivated for 10,000 years. Although the time mystic realm was good, he couldn't stay for too long. With Lin Feng's wealth, he didn't care about the energy consumed by the time mystic realm. However, if he continued to stay in the time mystic realm, it would cause damage to his body and soul. Therefore, if he stayed in the time mystic realm for 10,000 years, he would have to leave for a while. My current strength is almost at the peak of the Black Domain Master Realm. Lin Feng was very clear that although his strength hadn't changed much, his equipment had greatly increased his battle strength. It would be easy for him to kill the cool, strange Wings Monarch. However, compared to the T-Rex clone, it's still a bit lacking. Lin Feng didn't care too much because he believed that the next time he entered the time mystic realm, his main body's battle strength would surpass that of the Black Domain Master Realm. He would become a peak Black Domain Master. To enter the Origin Awakening Continent, the strength of a peak Black Domain Master was the ticket. Even if there was a shortcut, if one's strength wasn't enough, they would die in vain. Lin Feng was very clear on this point. The tighter the time, the more meticulous the arrangements. Lin Feng, who had just returned to Yuan City, was slightly startled. Acquaintances? Looking for me? Only one chapter today. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1666. Yes, they have come to look for you many times, Brother Lin. Yu Chung smiled. Acquaintances? Lin Feng murmured. He only had a few acquaintances, but Enai Xian and the others were still cultivating in the secret realm. As for the White Wool tribe, he had already met them. He had helped them settle down in Yuan City, so they didn't need to hide and be afraid. Other than them, his acquaintances were the river demons of the North River. Were they looking for him? Usually not. Tang Luanfeng and Violet Electric would have informed me if something happened. Lin Feng followed Yu Chung to the reception room. The large palace was elegant and unique. Ancient stone sculptures that contained hidden meanings lined both sides of the room. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes, and a bright light flashed before his eyes. He regained his composure. It was a silver-haired man with red eyelids. His evil figure had a demonic aura, and he looked like a human. He was an expert from the Milky Way, just like him. Evil Empire, 24th on the Milky Way Sage King list, I Ching. Together with Sage King Feng Xiao, he had formed the Milky Way Alliance in the North Continent, uniting the humans from the Milky Way. He was with the son of the Heavenly Dragon and Sage King Golden Lion. Previously, in the Thousand Treasure Hall, there had been some friction and unhappiness because of Enai Xian. If they hadn't appeared now, he would have almost forgotten about them. Brother Lin, long time no see. Do you still remember us? I Ching said with a smile. Sage King Feng Xiao, Sage King He Lu, and the others were behind him, looking at Lin Feng with complicated expressions. Sit. Lin Feng gestured for everyone to sit and nodded with a smile. They were guests. Moreover, one wouldn't slap a smiling face. Although he had some conflicts with them, it wasn't to the extent of fighting and killing when they met. After all, Sage King Golden Lion, who had a grudge with him, was dead, and the whereabouts of the son of the Heavenly Dragon were unknown. Brother Lin is really amazing. Now you're living in the inner city of Yuan City. I Ching's gaze swept around, and his words were full of envy. Other than the Yuan tribe, other human experts couldn't enter at all. Lin Feng smiled and nodded, but didn't say anything. I Ching's face flushed red. The atmosphere was a little awkward. He nodded to the people behind him. I Ching's expression turned serious. He cupped his fists and bowed. I have offended you before. I hope that Brother Lin will forgive me. Please forgive us, Brother Lin. Saint King Feng Xiao, Saint King He Lu, and the others bowed. Lin Feng glanced at the crowd and understood. There's no need to stand on ceremony. I've long forgotten about the past. I Ching said gratefully. Brother Lin is a big shot. His breadth of mind is incomparable to ordinary people. Now that his name has shaken the northern continent, he is truly a role model for our generation. Those of us from the Milky Way are all proud of Brother Lin and share in his glory. All right, there's no need for compliments, Lin Feng said softly. His gaze swept across the crowd. It's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. As you said, we are all from the Milky Way. If you need my help, just tell me. The eyes of I Ching and the others lit up. Unexpectedly, it went smoothly. They had never thought that it would go so smoothly. They had thought that Lin Feng would ridicule and humiliate them, or even refuse to meet them. Who would have thought that Lin Feng was so easy to talk to? On the contrary, it seemed that they had gone too far previously. Every dog has its day. They had never thought that an inconspicuous little fellow would now be the #1 human. They could not offend him, nor could they avoid him. They might as well put down their pride and apologize. I wonder if, Brother Lin, can you arrange for us to enter the Yu-Ren secret territory? I Ching hesitated for a moment. The merit mission had been issued for a long time, but the number of experts who had completed it was very few. They had tried their best, but in the end, they had only obtained less than half of the winged hearts. It was very difficult. The Yu-Ren secret territory was the foundation of the Yu-Ren clan in the northern continent. More than 90% of Chaos Whole Immortal experts would be able to break through and become Black Domain Masters. That's it? Lin Feng asked. I Ching and the others were stunned. That's it? Suddenly, they smiled bitterly. That's right. This was an extremely difficult task for them, but it was a piece of cake for Lin Feng. As long as he asked, the Yu-Ren clan would definitely not refuse. Thinking of this, I Ching and the others sighed. They were all from the Milky Way. They were much stronger than Lin Feng back then, but now they were on two completely different levels. Lin Feng looked at I Ching and the others calmly. How could he not know what they were thinking? These experts from a Milky Way were all extraordinary figures in the Milky Way. Otherwise, they would not have been able to enter the deepest part of the ancient myriad world's secret territory. However, in the Tung Chi continent, they were struggling to survive. Now that he had completely surpassed them, they must be feeling very complicated. Do you have any crystal houses in Yuren City? Lin Feng asked. We have a few, I Ching whispered. The crystal houses in Yuren City were too expensive. They cannot afford them at all. The most ordinary Yuhua crystal house was sold for at least 100,000, and there was no market for it. The Heaven Mud crystal house was even more incredible, starting at 1,000,000 wing hearts. Without a certain status, one would not even have the qualifications to buy it. Lin Feng nodded. After pondering for a while, he said, How about this? I will give you 1 enigmatic diamond house and 7 Heaven Mud crystal houses. The 8 of you are just enough. Settle down in Yuren City first. 7 Heaven Mud crystal houses, and the highest grade enigmatic diamond house. Everyone's eyes almost popped out. Did they hear wrongly? That was the enigmatic diamond house. Its defensive power was so strong that even the master of the Dark Region would find it difficult to destroy it. There were only 32 of them in Yuren City, and all of them were top experts of the human clan. It was a symbol of status. Now, he was giving it to them directly. In addition, I will give each of you 5,000,000 wing hearts. If you need them, come find me. Lin Feng looked at the stunned crowd and added, Is that enough? In the previous battle in Yuren City, he had earned a lot of wing hearts. 5,000,000 for each person, so the total of 40,000,000 was just a drop in the ocean. But to them, it should be enough for a long time. Enough, enough. I Ching and the others could only nod, not knowing what to say. In addition, Lin Feng dragged out his words, causing the hearts of I Ching and the others to jump. They stare at Lin Feng with wide eyes, completely suffocating. There is more. I also have a space suppression secret realm. When the time comes, you can enter and cultivate. Lin Feng did not care much. These were things that could be shared, so it did not matter if more people knew. Not to mention, with his current strength, it did not matter if he could enter or not. That's all I can think of for now. Is there anything else you need my help with? Lin Feng said with a faint smile. I Ching and the others looked at each other. Shock, shame, gratitude, and various other emotions were revealed. Then everyone bowed deeply. I Ching cupped his hands and said, "Brother Lin's kindness and righteousness, we will never forget it. We are ashamed of our previous actions. In the future, if Brother Lin needs us, we will do our best to help." Everyone's faces were serious, and it was from the bottom of their hearts. Lin Feng's actions had completely convinced them. This was a true big shot. To read the latest novel, please visit Chapter 1667. Yurin City, Enigmatic Diamond Crystal House. I Ching and the others gathered together. The enigmatic diamond crystal house alone was enough for the 8 of them to live in. The area was quite large, and the interior was extremely luxurious. There was even a unique cultivation room that gathered the spirit energy of heaven and earth. "I'm ashamed," Sage King Feng Xiu sighed. He sighed softly, expressing I Ching and the others' thoughts. They had been training in the Tang Chi continent for a long time. With the experience of fighting in the Milky Way, they gradually adapted and survived. Every moment was extremely difficult. The team of more than 10 people before was now only 8 of them. They had seen the fickleness of the world and the fickleness of human nature. However, for Lin Feng to help them regardless of the past, it was too little. "We should be glad that we didn't attack Brother Lin that day," Sage King Huli said. "Yes, fortunately, we didn't do anything." I Ching smiled and nodded. Back then, he had brushed past Lin Feng a few times and thought that he was lucky. Now that he thought about it, they were the lucky ones. If there was a conflict between them, they were already very lucky that Lin Feng didn't kill them. Why would he help them? Golden Lion and Sky Dragon. "These 2 idiots," Sage King He Lu said coldly. Everyone condemned them. They were completely on Lin Feng's side now. It was normal to curry favor with those in power. "All right, let's just treat the past as dirt and wipe it away." I Ching's expression was serious. "With Lin Feng as our backer, we will have a backer in Yurin City in the future. We don't have to be afraid of anything. However, that is that. Everyone, please don't cause trouble." "Don't worry, we know what to do," Sage King Shu Suo said. Sage King Huli's eyes lit up. He was full of fighting spirit. "I want to cultivate and strive to catch up with Brother Lin Feng as soon as possible." That's right. The potential of the humans in the Milky Way is much greater than the humans in the Tang Chi continent. They are just lucky to have such a good cultivation environment, I Ching said. "As long as we cultivate hard, even if we can't catch up with Brother Lin Feng, we will definitely stand at the top of the humans in the Tang Chi continent." "Yes, well said. Our Milky Way galaxy humans are the strongest." With I Ching's encouragement and Lin Feng's example, everyone in the Milky Way alliance was filled with fighting spirit. With a goal, he would have a motivation and strength to move forward. Lin Feng didn't know what I Ching and the others were thinking, nor did he care. However, I Ching and the others were right about one thing. Fortunately, they did not make a move against Lin Feng that day. If they had really made a move, the situation would be completely different. No matter how magnanimous Lin Feng was, he would not be able to forgive them just like that. "If you respect me, I will respect you tenfold." After making arrangements for I Ching and the others, Lin Feng made a trip back to the White Wheel tribe to see his old friend. He secretly gave Bai Tang a considerable amount of wing hearts before heading to the secret realm of space. This world of nothingness was surrounded by dense spatial energy, and there was a suppressive force everywhere. In the deep secret realm of space, the deeper one went, the stronger the suppressive force would be, and one's comprehension would be twice the result with half the effort. That day, he had been cultivating at 9,900 meters for 10 years. Although he did not comprehend the true meaning of space, the large absorption of spatial energy had caused the black vortex to transform. "Last time, I only went 70,000 meters, and that was my limit." Lin Feng entered quickly. His memory was still fresh. Along the way, he saw a few old friends, and I Hu, Lei Tong, and the people of the Thunder Clan. Although 1,000 years had passed, they had not changed much. Especially Lei Tong, who was the strongest and had the least improvement. On the contrary, the other youths of the Thunder Clan had improved a lot, but Ni Hu had improved the most. Now, Not only had she surpassed the other members of the Thunder Clan, but she had also surpassed Lei Tong. She had surpassed the position of 10,000 meters. It was amazing. In the past 1,000 years, an IQ had improved significantly. Without disturbing the others' cultivation, Lin Feng went deeper alone. Easy. In a short while, Lin Feng had crossed the threshold of 10,000 meters. The first time he came here, the 10,000 meters position gave him a lot of pressure, but now it was clear. His body was stronger, his soul was stronger, his bloodline was stronger. Even his equipment was stronger. Lin Feng, who had improved significantly in every aspect, passed through each node one after another. From 30,000 meters to 50,000 meters, from 50,000 meters to 70,000 meters, until he felt a trace of pressure at 100,000 meters, 200,000 meters, 300,000 meters, 400,000 meters, 500,000 meters. Lin Feng pursed his lips, his eyes deep. He had thought that this space compression secret realm was an ordinary mid-level space, true meaning secret realm, but now it seemed that it was not ordinary. At 500,000 meters, he still couldn't see the bottom, but he had almost reached his limit. There's still a long way to go. Lin Feng knew clearly that, just like a person's wisdom, the older they got, the more they realized how shallow they were. It was the same when they went deep into the space compression secret realm. The more they went, the more they realized that this secret realm was special and extraordinary. Logically speaking, the pressure at this position is already great enough. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He knew very well that at this position, even the cool Strange Wings monarch couldn't bear it. It had already reached the limit of a top-level Black Region Master. What would happen if he went further? Even a top-level Black Region Master couldn't reach the end? Impossible. Lin Feng immediately rejected it. This secret realm was obviously man-made. In other words, as long as one's strength was enough, they could definitely reach the deepest part. The problem was how to go. Waves of tyrannical space compression, true meaning, came from all directions, squeezing his body. The brilliant sacred armor on his body emitted a bright halo, and the black vortex swallowed the spatial energy. Lin Feng could maintain absolute balance here. He carefully pondered and swept his gaze around. Lin Feng suddenly understood. Stupid, this is the space compression secret realm. Naturally, I have to rely on the space compression true meaning. If I can comprehend the space compression true meaning, even if it's just a trace, I can resist a lot and continue to go deeper. I don't have to rely on my body's defense and strength to resist. Lin Feng thought of an Aishian. This little girl was now more than 10,000 meters away. Obviously, she didn't rely on brute force to resist. Instead, she comprehended a trace of the space compression true meaning. Let's cultivate here. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to return to the time secret realm. His body and soul still needed time to recover. Although the time secret realm was good, the side effects weren't small. If he cultivated here, he could comprehend the mid-grade space compression true meaning. The black vortex could also absorb a large amount of spatial energy, killing two birds with one stone. Previously, I comprehended quite a bit of the elementary space compression true meaning in the Uran secret realm. I also grasped the first two levels of return to Zero Cross. My foundation is solid enough. I can comprehend the mid-grade space compression true meaning now. Lin Feng cultivated at the 500,000 meter position. Although the pressure was great, as long as his body could bear it, the effects of cultivating here were the best. The black vortex surged and was incomparably excited. Although it was only at the boundary between the light divine imprint and the darkness divine imprint, it was still not an ordinary bloodline. Maybe the black vortex can evolve to the third stage. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1668. Strange, my comprehension of the true intent of crushing seems to have weakened. Lei Tong, who was in the middle of training, exclaimed. He had been training here for 1,000 years. In the beginning, he didn't feel anything, but in the past few decades, he felt that something was amiss. Although it had only weakened a little, after a few decades, it had weakened by almost half. Maybe it's a natural phenomenon. Lei Tong couldn't explain it, nor could he change anything. Looking at Enai Xian, who was already 10,000 meters away, he clenched his fists and continued to chase. He was a dignified Black Region master, yet he was surpassed by a chaos hole immortal. How could he endure this? Soon, I'm about to comprehend a trace of the true intent of crushing. Lei Tong enjoyed this healthy competition. There was a period of time when he and Enai Xian alternated to go deeper, but now the gap between them had gradually widened. But soon, Lei Tong knew that he would definitely catch up to Enai Xian, because he was about to comprehend it. Even if it was only a trace, a portion of it would be stronger than a beginner true intent of space. That day, Brother Lin Feng only reached 10,000 meters. I'll soon be stronger than him. Lei Tong, who was making a solemn vow, naturally didn't know that he had already reached 500,000 meters in order to surpass the person chasing him. It was truly a difference between heaven and earth. This wave of training lasted for 50 years. Although the space energy seemed to have weakened in these 50 years, Lei Tong still comprehended a trace of the true intent of crushing and obtained the recognition of the space laws. If one's talent wasn't enough, one could only train harder than others. Very good. Lei Tong was overjoyed. Relying on his comprehension of the true intent of crushing, he quickly moved deeper into the secret territory. He didn't want to lose to Enai Xian. 10,000 meters, 12,000 meters, 15,000 meters, 20,000 meters. Lei Tong more than doubled his original distance. His body reached its limit, but he was shocked to find that Enai Xian, who was 13,000 meters away, was nowhere to be seen. Looking forward, he could vaguely see the woman's back, but she was 30,000 meters away. It can't be. Lei Tong was a little stunned. He sighed and smiled bitterly. This was the reality. He was improving, and so was Enai Xian. This woman from the Milky Way was quite strong. Now that she was also a Black Region master, she wasn't any worse than him. Looking back, the geniuses of the Thunder Clan were far inferior in comparison. Even his own face paled in comparison to his own. At the very least, I've surpassed Brother Lin Feng's record. Lei Tong comforted himself and muttered, I haven't seen him for a long time. I wonder how he is now. I've been in seclusion for over 1,000 years. It's time for me to go back and take a look. Lei Tong glanced at the depths of the secret realm one more time before he stood up and left. He naturally did not know that outside, the Brother Lin Feng he knew had already become a famous figure in the northern continent, a leader of the human race. True meaning of space suppression, a middle grade true meaning of space. And I was spent 500 years to comprehend a trace of true intent. Lei Tong spent 1,000 years to comprehend a trace of true intent, but Lin Feng only spent 3 years to comprehend a trace of true intent. After returning, he was completely different from before. In these few decades, what Lin Feng had comprehended was not a trace of the true meaning of space suppression. Complete comprehension. Only then could he enter the space suppression secret realm to the greatest extent. 87 years. In addition to the previous 3 years, Lin Feng had been comprehending the true intent of space suppression for close to 100 years. Previously, he had only comprehended a trace, but now he had comprehended a portion. There was still a long time before he fully comprehended it. As he continued to comprehend, Lin Feng did not slack off at all. It seemed like he was comprehending for the sake of it, but in fact, his main goal was the Black Vortex. Back then, the Black Vortex had absorbed enough spatial energy to transform and enter the second stage. Now, he was advancing towards the third stage. Swish! The Black Vortex gradually changed. The suction force of the vortex became stronger and stronger, as though it had come alive and was full of vitality. It was like a child growing into an adult, becoming stronger and more mature. It had improved by a small amount. Although it was not a transformation, it had reduced the pressure on Lin Feng by a lot. I can go deeper. Lin Feng clearly knew his own situation. 500,000 meters was not his current limit. In addition, in the past 90 years, he had absorbed a small portion of the space suppression secret realm's energy. He could still go deeper. 550,000 meters. 600,000 meters. Lin Feng stopped at 620,000 meters. He had reached his limit. The absorption is faster, and the comprehension is stronger. Lin Feng closed his eyes and felt clearly. The surrounding pressure was stronger, but the spatial energy was more vigorous. Soon, he began to cultivate again. Year after year, Lin Feng's comprehension deepened. From a partial to half, to a large part, he was close to fully comprehending it. A full 150 years had passed, and the black vortex was almost full. He was not far from breaking through. In 200 years, I will definitely be able to reach a higher level. Lin Feng was very confident in himself. Their journey had been very smooth. As expected, in the 180th year after entering the secret realm, he finally fully comprehended the mid-level true meaning of space and stepped into a new level. Clear spatial energy accompanied him, and the surrounding spatial laws became clearer and more active. His spatial innate ability had improved by a lot. Good. Lin Feng was very satisfied. The third and final level of the cross, returning to zero, seemed to have touched him. He did not spend too much time comprehending it. After familiarizing himself with the mid-level true meaning of space, crushing, he quickly put it to use. Using the crushing space to deal with the pressure of the secret realm was as easy as using 4 tails to move 1,000 caddies. Previously, he had already reached 750,000 meters. Now he was rapidly crossing 800,000 meters, 900,000 meters. He was going straight for 1,000,000 meters. I can reach it. Lin Feng was very confident. This time, he would definitely reach the end. The pressure continued to increase, but Lin Feng's fighting spirit was exceptionally high. He released all the energy in his body to comprehend the true meaning of crushing space. His control of the true meaning of crushing space was getting stronger, and the distance between them was getting deeper. 950,000 meters, 970,000 meters, 990,000 meters. It's right in front. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and walked forward step by step. Although there was an endless amount of crushing space around him, with his grasp of the true meaning, the power of the laws, and the brilliant sage armor on his body, he was still able to withstand it. His body trembling slightly, Lin Feng could already see the bottom of the secret realm. A white light seemed to be enveloping something. That is, Lin Feng's breathing was hurried. He did not retreat, but instead decreased his speed. His tenacious fighting spirit supported his body. He suddenly roared, and the brilliant light armor emitted a bright halo. The pressure suddenly decreased again. Hua! Lin Feng went straight for the end of the secret realm, where the bright light was enveloping the area. It was within reach. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1669. In front of him was a tree. Under the bright light was a tree with branches and leaves. Lin Feng didn't expect this at all. How strange. Lin Feng passed through the white light. The pressure suddenly lightened, and he couldn't help but smile. Smelling the fruit fragrance, Lin Feng slowly walked towards the small tree. It was only 5 meters tall, with an emerald green trunk and almost transparent branches. On the branches, there were fruits in 2s and 3s. They were all emerald and transparent, as if they would break with a light touch. At the end of the secret realm, there was actually such a strange small tree. It was completely unexpected. Oh! Lin Feng plucked one of the fruits. More than half of the jadeite color had faded away, and more than 80% of the fruit was transparent. Rich spatial energy was contained within the small fruit. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Without a doubt, this was a heaven and earth fruit. Moreover, it was a top-grade heaven and earth fruit. The space energy contained in it was unimaginable. It was incomparably pure. Smack! Lin Feng directly swallowed the heaven and earth fruit in his hand. His eyes widened in an instant. As soon as the fruit entered his stomach, the turbulent space energy directly concentrated in his body, spreading to his limbs and 5 meridians. Skin, bones, internal organs, cells, every part of his body absorbed the space energy. Whoosh! It went straight to the top of his head. His mind was blown, and the whole space was like a grid falling in front of him. Lin Feng unconsciously reached out to touch it, and he was completely stunned and petrified. At first, he thought that the transparent heaven and earth fruit only replenished the space energy and strengthened the black vortex. But that wasn't the case. This space heaven and earth fruit can improve space talent. Lin Feng was shocked. His space talent wasn't bad, and it was second to none in the Milky Way. But compared to the winged emperor of the Winged Men clan, it was still far behind. However, there was only one fruit in front of him. A transparent emerald space heaven and earth fruit had improved his space talent by a whole level, and he had only absorbed a small part of it. Good stuff. Lin Feng was wild with joy. Whether it was his original body or to the tyrant dragon avatar, they both needed such a heaven-defying fruit. There were 17 fruits above, and Lin Feng didn't hesitate to pick them all, leaving the tree bare. My apologies. Lin Feng smiled apologetically and retreated. He had no intention of being modest. No matter how much there was, he would take it all. As the fruit was plucked, the surging true meaning of space once again attacked. The brilliant saint armor blossomed with an extremely bright halo, and Lin Feng rapidly retreated, returning to a distance of 800,000 meters. This was a place where he didn't feel burdened at all, where he could sit back and relax. 17 heaven-defying fruits that could increase one's spatial talent. A bountiful harvest. We've really struck it rich this time. Lin Feng put away the heaven-defying fruit and sat down cross-legged. He was not in a hurry to absorb the second fruit. There was still more than 99% of the energy left in the first fruit, so it would take some time for him to absorb it. After all, this was the purest form of energy. Good. Lin Feng was very satisfied. Space talent wasn't just related to combat power. It was also indispensable for one to make a breakthrough and improve one's life form. Humans had limited talent, and their spatial aptitude was not very outstanding. However, with this heaven-defying spatial fruit, it was completely different. He quickly and continuously absorbed it. Lin Feng extravagantly swallowed one fruit after another. The more transparent the fruit was, the more pure spatial energy there was. The more jadeite the fruit was, the less pure spatial energy there was. Actually, it was just a matter of the fruit's maturity. Obviously, this spatial fruit tree needed a long time to bear fruit. Now, I've completely surpassed the Wings Monarch. Lin Feng continued to absorb. With the improvement of his spatial talent, his control and application of the true meaning of space was twice as effective. Now, he had basically grasped the third level of Return to Zero Cross. He only needed a period of time to practice it, and he would be able to completely control it. I wonder how high the Wings Monarch's spatial talent is. I hope I can surpass them one day. Year after year, Lin Feng's spatial talent gradually reached saturation. It wasn't the limit, but the effect of the heaven-defying fruit had weakened a lot. However, this was already enough. The 200th year after entering the secret realm. Dong! Dong! Like a heartbeat, it came from the black vortex where the light and dark divine patterns interacted. It was swallowing and spitting intensely. The overflowing spatial energy turned into an endless amount of energy, crazily condensing and condensing again and again. When it condensed to the extreme, it was like a black hole collapsing. The powerful energy reformed a new black vortex. The energy core was extremely pure, causing his spatial talent to greatly increase again. Black vortex, third stage. Hiss, hiss, Lin Feng wantonly absorbed the energy produced by the black vortex, concentrating it into his body. It merged with the heaven-defying fruit that he had absorbed before, and his brand-new original body's strength rapidly increased. Hiss, divine patterns appeared on his skin one after another. They were brighter and deeper than before. Lin Feng opened his eyes. They shone brightly and swept across the secret realm. Every spatial energy, fluctuation, and region seemed to be in front of him, turning into the purest spatial energy. Everything was revealed. Every fluctuation of the true meaning of space could be seen. Moving casually, Lin Feng walked deeper into the secret realm. His body moved with the wind like a willow, dancing as he moved forward. When he reached 900,000 meters, he still didn't use any energy. It was as if all the spatial energy was under his control. Is this the brand new spatial talent? Lin Feng quickly arrived at the end of the secret realm. Even if the true meaning of space was the strongest here, he was still at ease. He completely ignored it. The improvement of the black vortex, the consumption of the heaven-defying fruit, and the comprehension of the true meaning of space had changed a lot in just 200 years. Now, his spatial talent wasn't inferior to any of the winged monarchs. He might even be stronger. There are still 7 heaven-defying fruits. I'll give them all to the tyrant dragon clone. Lin Feng had already decided. Compared to his original body, the tyrant dragon clone needed the heaven-defying fruit more because the tyrant dragon clone's spatial talent was too terrible to look at. Of course, this was compared to his original body. Generally speaking, the demon race's talent was often focused on one point. The tyrant dragon clone's strongest talent was earth perception. The demon race's strength was often limited precisely because of their spatial comprehension. With these 7 heaven-defying fruits, another chronic illness of the tyrant dragon clone was cured. The harvest was overflowing. 200 years of recuperation is about enough. After entering the time secret realm again, I can go to Origin Awakened Continent. Lin Feng made up his mind. His strength had improved a lot compared to before. It was time to go to Origin Awakened Continent. In just one era, it was only possible to create a miracle in Origin Awakened Continent. The top super powerhouses of the Tung Chi continent were there. That was the true core of the Tung Chi continent. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1670. Lin Feng returned to the time mystic realm. It was a special place that only the North River had. 10,000 years was a cycle, but only 10 days had passed in the outside world. He had entered it when he was fighting for the position of North King. Now, it had become his unique cultivation ground. First level, illusory cross. Second level, cross cage. Third level, annihilation. As a top-notch spatial mystic treasure, the return to zero cross was comprehensive and powerful. However, it was not easy to comprehend all 3 levels. Even the winged monarch might not be able to do it, especially the third level, annihilation. Lin Feng had cultivated hard for 1,000 years, but he still could not do it. But now, so it's that simple. After the new transformation, Lin Feng's understanding and control of space was not inferior to the winged monarch. It was easy for him to control spatial mystic treasures. Not only that, even the first level illusory cross and the second level 10 cage were much more powerful. Bang! An astonishing power exploded in the time mystic realm, bringing with it a strong spatial collapse. Lin Feng stretched out his hand, and the return to zero cross returned to his hand in an instant. I'm not skilled enough. Its power should be a little stronger. The explosive power of his black vortex and spatial control were above the original design of the return to zero cross. The third level, annihilation, should be at least twice as powerful. Lin Feng quickly immersed himself in it, constantly experimenting with increasing the power of the return to zero cross. He rarely used the return to zero cross in the North Continent. The lack of power of the black vortex was one reason, and the weakening of spatial power against the Wing clan was another reason. But in the Origin Awakened Continent, there were various races, not just against the Wing clan. The return to zero cross's effect would gradually become more prominent. After spending 100 years, Lin Feng doubled the power of the annihilation. In another 500 years, it doubled again. In the 2300th year, the power of the annihilation had increased by nearly 5 times. It's the limit. Lin Feng did not waste any more time on the return to zero cross. There was a limit to the treasure's power. Although it might not be the real limit now, it was not far from it. Most importantly, He had already unleashed his full potential. Move on to the next item. Fuse. By fusing 6 great Daos of light, the first stage of fusion could surpass perfection. The second stage of fusion was comparable to the great perfection of one of the great Daos of light. There's also the third stage and the legendary fourth stage. The further one progressed, the more difficult it would be. However, fusion was the general trend. Although one had to cultivate to the second stage to be comparable to a great perfection, grand 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 perfection. Grand perfection, grand perfection, grand perfection, grand perfection. Grand perfection, grand perfection, grand Tao, grand perfection, 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 grand Tao, grand perfection, 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 grand. However, fusion did not require that. At the very least, he could do it in the second stage. Moreover, when all 6 great Daos of light reach great perfection and have the experience of fusing them together, only then will they become truly powerful and frightening. Lin Feng's gaze was set far into the future. Great perfection was not the limit. Surpassing great perfection was what he was pursuing. The winged people's territory. Now that the territory of the winged man was unified, the king of cool and strange wings held all the power and could be said to be the ruler of the northern continent. However, it was only the northern continent. Although it seemed awe-inspiring, the king of cool and strange wings knew very well how powerful he was. He was born in the southern continent and was a member of the Black-Winged Emperor's banner. Although he had established a foundation in the northern continent, he still belonged to the Black-Winged Emperor. The king of cool and strange wings did not dare to rebel. He clearly knew the Black-Winged Emperor's methods. However, he was not resigned to this. Therefore, together with Lin Feng, the king of cool and strange wings wanted to enter the Origin Enlightened continent through the gate of Origin Enlightened. No matter what the outcome was, at least he could obtain freedom and no longer be restrained by the Black-Winged Emperor. Greetings, my lords. The king of cool and strange wings bowed respectfully. If the other winged men of the northern continent saw this, they would be extremely shocked. Their king was actually bowing to other winged men. The 2 winged men were 9 meters tall and were between the winged monarch and the winged emperor. The flesh wings on their backs were transparent with a hint of white and flawless. They were exactly the same as the king of cool and strange wings. However, the difference was that these 2 winged men did not only have 3 pairs of wings, they had 4 pairs of wings. 8 winged men, the pinnacle bloodline of the winged men, the symbol of the winged emperors. However, they were not the true winged emperors. Their 4th pair of wings were also not perfect wings. Instead, they were miniature wings. These winged men did not rely on their own cultivation to become 8 winged men. Instead, they relied on the essence of the winged emperors to nurture warriors. Although they were pinnacle Black Region masters, that was all. They were unable to increase their strength. These winged men were called 8 winged kings and not winged emperors. However, compared to 6 winged kings, they were still much stronger. Yo, cool and strange wings, you seem to be living quite comfortably. 8 winged king Orange Guardian walked around, looking at this and that. He was very uneasy. He had a cynical expression and the corner of his mouth curled up. Winged King, please excuse me. The king of cool and strange wings smiled. How would I dare to laugh at you? 8 winged king of Orange Guardian said eccentrically. After dealing with Mad Mist Winged King, you are free and unfettered here. You are much happier than your brothers. Unlike us, who were sent to the east and west by the Winged Emperor. The king of cool and strange wings smiled apologetically. All right, Orange Guardian, stop talking nonsense. The other eight-winged king, Yu Mingzi, interrupted. Cool and strange wings, why are you still not doing what the winged emperor ordered? The king of cool and strange wings sighed in his heart. What was meant to come had still come. The black-winged emperor had already sent a message, asking him to flatten Yurin City at all costs. However, the king of cool and strange wings knew his own matters and was not willing to get involved. He only wanted to stall for time. When he entered Origin Awakened Continent, who would care about them? Who would have thought that the black-winged emperor would actually send the eight-winged king over? This time it was for real. I'm not afraid of the two lords laughing at me. It is not that I did not attack. However, in the war 1,000 years ago, Mad Mist and I were not a match for that human. In the end, Mad Mist was captured and I was heavily injured. I barely managed to escape. The king of cool and strange wings had already thought of an excuse and explained. What kind of joke is this? Is that humans so powerful? The king of Orange Guardian said in disdain. I do not dare to lie to the two lords. This matter is absolutely true. The king of cool and strange wings sighed, his face filled with sorrow. The Yu Mingzi frowned and said, I do not think you would dare to lie. The human's matter is not just master. The three-winged emperors have already gathered and ordered us to flatten Yurin City and cut off the human's path of retreat. The three-winged emperors had met. The king of cool and strange wings' heart jumped. With his experience, he knew that this was not a joke. With us here, you do not need to worry so much. Do your job well. Immediately mobilize the winged men army and prepare to attack Yurin City. The Yu Mingzi's expression was solemn. As for that human, Orange Guardian will take care of him. Yes, Lord. The king of cool and strange wings did not dare to disobey. The eight-winged king Orange Guardian snorted and laughed in disdain. A human? What was there to be surprised about? Want to get a rabies shot? Unhappy. Today's chapter. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1671. 6 Great Tao of Light, the first stage of fusion. This stage was not difficult to grasp. The only difference was how much one grasped. This was the layering of ordinary power. Using the power of the origin of light to condense 6 Great Tao of Light and simply layering them together. However, ordinary warriors usually layered 2 Great Tao of Light. For Lin Feng, layering 6 Great Tao of Light was shocking. It directly increased the power by 6 times. Lin Feng's light talent didn't have any shortcomings. Even his weakest comprehension of the Great Tao of Light was astonishing. After all, he had the divine runes of light bloodline and was naturally extraordinary. The strength of his bloodline would only increase as he progressed. This was a true top-notch bloodline. Busy. One divine rune of light after another appeared on his skin, suppressing the divine rune of darkness. The Tao of halos, the Tao of light, the Tao of light. Every layer of power overlapped with each other, but was difficult to fuse. With every layer that was fused, the power would weaken by 1 layer. The first stage of fusion is the process of 1 + 1 = 2. For me, 6 ones equals 6. Lin Feng was very clear about the difficulty of his fusion. It was easy to fuse 2 Great Tao of Light. He only needed to consider 2 factors. However, the 6 Great Tao of Light required far more than that. For example, fusing the Tao of Light with the Tao of Light before fusing the 3rd Tao of Light. At this time, he not only had to consider the Tao of Light with the Tao of Light, but also the changes that would occur when the 3 fused. If he added a 4th Great Tao of Light, it would be even more complicated. I'll take it step by step. I'll succeed in layering every 2 possibilities. After that, I'll combine the 3 possibilities. Lin Feng considered for a long time and chose the most troublesome method. However, he felt that this was the most crucial point. Perhaps he could complete the first stage of fusion faster if he changed to another method. However, his goal was not just the first stage. Therefore, he had to have a solid foundation. Although it would take some time in the beginning, it would save a lot of effort later. The foolish old man moving mountains. Lin Feng began the difficult process of layering the great Taos. Fortunately, they were all great Taos of light, and he had the divine pattern of light as a medium. So his comprehension of layering went very smoothly. In the process of layering, his understanding of each great Tao of light would also become more thorough. This was very important for cultivating or creating nomological secret techniques. Each great Tao of light had its own unique life. The 6 great Taos of light were like the 6 children of the origin of light. Although they had different personalities, they were all of the same lineage of light. Once he grasped the method, it would be much easier to fuse and overlay. Since they are both great Taos of light, it is convenient to combine them. However, what will happen if the great Taos of light and great Taos of darkness are combined? Lin Feng shook his head. They couldn't find any common ground at all. Instead, they were mutually exclusive. At present, such a fusion was completely impossible. However, he had personally witnessed the power of the ancestor. Not only could the great Tao of light and the great Tao of darkness perfectly fuse, but it was also very powerful. It was far stronger than the combination of 2 great Taos of the same element. The current me, regardless of whether it is in terms of vision or structure, is still very far from it. Lin Feng was very clear that it was just like how one could only see the sky as small as the mouth of the well. Once one exited the well, one could see the sky. Only when one exited the well could one truly see the entire world. With the growth of his strength and knowledge, as well as the experience of fusing the 6 great Tao of light, he would find a way sooner or later. It was rather time-consuming. Lin Feng first combined the great Taos of light and great Taos of light, which he was most proficient in. However, it still took him 100 years to succeed. Everything was difficult at the beginning. After that, the great Tao of light, the great Tao of light, the great Tao of radiance, and the great Tao of radiance consumed a lot of time. By the time he completed the combination of all 6 great Taos, almost 2,000 years had passed. This was also because of the divine light pattern. Otherwise, it wouldn't be enough even if he spent dozens of times more time. Having the divine light pattern was equivalent to building a bridge with the origin of light. His body was like an ocean of origin. With the experience of combining 2 great Taos of light and the comprehension of each great Tao of light, the speed of combining 3 great Taos of light was slightly faster. Similarly, it took him almost 2,000 years. Then 4 great Taos of light were stacked, 5 great Taos of light were stacked. Lin Feng patiently tested every possibility. He tried all the stacking possibilities. It took a lot of time, but the rewards were also very plentiful. Any effort and effort would not be wasted. It was the last 500 years in the time mystic realm. I can definitely do it. Although there wasn't much time left, Lin Feng was very sure that he would definitely succeed in the last round of combining the 6 great Taos of light within the time limit. This was the result and confidence that came from the previous 7,200 years of hard work. Now his understanding of the 6 great Taos of light had completely risen to a new level. It was as if he had jumped out of a well and saw a new sky. Lin Feng opened his hand. A ball of light surging with bright light hung high in the sky like a scorching sun. Although it was only a small ball of light, it contained all 6 great Taos of light. Every great Tao of light relied on each other without any conflict. They maintained a simple yet complicated balance. Such a combination was very simple, but the combination of the 6 great Tao of light was very complicated. Boom! The bright ball of light directly blasted out and exploded in front of him. It was like a hydrogen bomb explosion. The violent energy was shocking. Lin Feng looked ahead with a calm expression. This was all within his expectations. When the conditions were right, success would come naturally. The power is stronger than I thought. 6 ones did not add up to 10. There were some common areas of the great Tao of light. When combined, it covered all the great Tao of light, and the power was nearly twice as strong as expected. 10 times the power of ultimate perfection. Lin Feng was very satisfied. He already had such results in the first stage. If he could combine it in the second stage, not only would it be comparable to a great perfection, it might even surpass it. This time, the 10,000 years of hard work had raised the combat power of his main body to another level. A new level, especially the fusion of the great Tao of light. It fully displayed the advantages of humans. My main body has finally caught up with the tyrant dragon clone. Lin Feng left the time mystic realm. His eyes were filled with challenge and confidence. The current him already had a certain level of strength to enter the Origin Awakened continent and face new challenges. To create a miracle, there will definitely be a chance. Lin Feng nodded secretly. He always believed that there was a way out. He returned to Yuan City. Before he even reached home, Lin Feng already knew that something had happened. With Yu Shui as the leader, a large group of Yu clan experts were waiting outside his house. When Yu Jing, Yu Cheng, and the others saw Lin Feng, their eyes lit up as if they saw hope. Fear, anticipation, nervousness, all kinds of expressions appeared on the faces of the Yu human clan experts. What is it? Lin Feng had already guessed what was going on. The Winged Men clan is here again. Yu Shui's voice was low, like a mountain pressing down. For the latest novel updates, please visit Chapter 1672. The Winged Clan came again. Lin Feng was also startled when he heard this news. He knew the cool, strange Wings monarch's personality. He would never do such a stupid thing. Even the cool, strange Wings monarch himself knew that he couldn't win against him. However, Yu Shui's words were true, and he wasn't spouting nonsense. What happened? He definitely knows. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He told the people of the Yu human clan not to worry, then returned home. Wu Jin and the Golden Flame Old Demon guarded the Quanglon Wing King, this former king of the North Continent. Although he was now a prisoner, he was still a tough nut to crack. He couldn't be chewed. The Winged Clan sent out troops again. Lin Feng stood in front of the mad Mist Wings monarch, looking down at the former king of the Winged Clan. His huge body was curled up on the ground. He no longer had his previous high spirits. Shua, the mad Mist Wings monarch, opened his eyes and sneered weakly. I didn't expect the cool, strange Wings monarch to have such a good relationship with you. He tried his best to save you. Lin Feng said. The mad Mist Wings monarch snorted in disdain. He can't wait for me to die. How could he be so kind? Lin Feng let out a soft "oh," curiously sizing up the Wings monarch. Is that the reinforcement you found yourself through a secret tip? Strange. We guarded so tightly. How did you send out the signal? The mad Mist Wings monarch laughed and said in disdain, Stupid human, you can't be so naive to think that it's me and the cool strange Wings monarch who want to exterminate you humans, right? It's the Winged Monarch. The Winged Monarch will never allow a second Yuren sovereign to appear. What's the use of capturing me? There are plenty of people in the Winged Clan who are stronger than me. If I'm not wrong, the Winged Monarch must have sent the 8-winged Winged Monarch this time. Haha, the 8-winged Winged Monarch with the strength of a top-notch master of the Black Region can easily kill you. Wait for death, human, haha. Unbridled, his laughter boorish. It could be seen that the mad Mist Wing King was in an extremely good mood. Lin Feng watched quietly. At this moment, he finally understood why the mad Mist Wing King would rather die than submit to him. On one hand, it was admittedly because of his personality, but on the other hand, he definitely knew that the Winged Emperor would once again send an army to attack Yuan City. As expected, Lin Feng said to himself, the cool strange Wings monarch was a subordinate of the Black Winged Emperor. The Winged Emperor had ordered the attack on Yuan City a few times, but he had been delayed by the cool strange Wings monarch. Clearly, there was no way he could drag this out. There was only one possibility. 8-winged Wing King. Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly. Since he already knew what he wanted to know, Lin Feng turned around and left without taking another look at the frenzied Mist Wing King. He had been training hard in the Time's secret realm for 20,000 years and had perfectly integrated the first stage of the Great Tao of Light. He was just looking for someone to test it out. Good timing. If I can't even defeat them, how can I enter Origin Awakened continent? Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. A storm was brewing, and the situation was extremely tense. The people of Urin City did not expect that after 1,000 years of peace, the Winged Men clan would once again launch a large-scale invasion. It would be a lie to say that they were not worried. After all, the Winged Men clan was famous. But compared to the last time, the atmosphere in Urin City was obviously much better. Because of Lin Feng's existence. What are you afraid of? We have a new emperor. That's right. With the new emperor, no matter how many Winged Men clan come, they will be beaten to a pulp. We were able to win last time. This time, we will definitely win again. As long as we are united and work together, under the leadership of the new emperor, we humans will also be invincible. In Urin City, all the human experts exploded with a strong fighting spirit. The role of a leader was very important. Early on, after the first defense of Urin City, Lin Feng had been crowned with the title of new emperor and was respected by all the human experts. His reputation had long surpassed that of the Urin clan. Now that the crisis had arrived, the first thing people thought of was not the Urin clan, but the new emperor, Lin Feng. Batch after batch of human experts gathered. This time, there was no need for Yushui to raise the morale of the human army. The human army's morale was already very high. Looking at the black-armored young man standing high on the city wall, everyone's eyes were burning with passion. Under the leadership of the new emperor, they would definitely not lose. Strict discipline, high morale, such an army's combat strength was quite tyrannical. Seeing this, Yushui smiled from the bottom of his heart. Although he was still very worried, today's humans were no longer soft persimmons that the Winged Men clan could bully. The success of the last defense of Urin City was not a coincidence. With him here, there will be no problem. Even Yushui himself had a kind of blind confidence in Lin Feng. Built by fame, dust billowed as the vast Winged Men clan's army attacked again. Unlike the previous time, the Winged Men clan's army was obviously a bit sluggish and fearful this time. However, the battle from 1,000 years ago was still fresh in their minds. It was completely different from the human army's current high morale. The only difference was that this time, there were two more fierce generals in the Winged Men clan's army, Winged King Yumingzi and Zhu Shou. After absorbing the Winged Emperor's essence blood and forcibly growing out their fourth pair of wings, their strength was above that of Black Domain Masters. They were peak Black Domain Masters, but they were still some distance away from the threshold. His combat power was between an advanced Dark Domain Master and a peak Dark Domain Master. Ku Chi shouldn't be lying to us, Winged King Yumingzi said in a deep voice. Oh, why do you say that? Winged King Zhu Shou was surprised. Winged King Yumingzi's gaze swept across the Winged Men clan's army as he slowly walked forward. Looking at the army's condition, our southern continent's Winged Men clan's army is always full of confidence and high morale. They are unstoppable. But look at this Winged Men clan's army. Winged King Zhu Shou nodded. It seems to make sense. Winged King Yumingzi said, according to King Ku Chi, that human strength is at the peak of Black Domain Master. His strength is one level higher than Ku Chi's, so he should be at the peak of Black Domain Master. Winged King Zhu Shou moved his head, flapped his wings, and smiled proudly. Don't worry, watch my performance. Winged King Yumingzi nodded. For some reason, he had a bad premonition in his heart. Maybe I'm thinking too much. No matter how strong a human is, there is a limit. Moreover, it is too difficult for a peak Black Domain Master to be born in the northern continent. Winged King Yumingzi thought. Even if he has improved in the past 1,000 years and broke through to Black Domain Master, even if he has just become a peak Black Domain Master, he still won't be our match. And this is already the worst-case scenario. Winged King Yumingzi thought carefully and then relaxed. No matter how he looked at it, this battle was in the bag. After completing this mission, I will be able to accumulate enough task points to leave the southern continent and enter the Origin Awakened continent. Winged King Yumingzi's expression was full of anticipation. Chapter 1673. The Wingman army had arrived at the city. Although the cool Strange Wings monarch was extremely unwilling, he didn't dare to openly disobey the Winged Monarch's order, and follow the two eight-winged monarchs to Yuren City. With Lin Feng's death, I don't know how long it will be before I can enter Origin Awakened Continent. The cool Strange Wings monarch sighed. He wasn't young anymore. If he delayed any longer, he wouldn't have any chance of breaking through. From his standpoint, he naturally didn't want Lin Feng to die at the hands of the eight-winged monarch. However, was it possible? Either the Yumingzi monarch or the Orange Protector monarch can easily kill him. The cool Strange Wings monarch clearly knew that Lin Feng's strength was on the same level as his. If they really fought, it was hard to say who would win. However, they were advancing to the Black Region Master level, while the two eight-winged monarchs were both at the peak of the Black Region Master level. The difference in level was too great. Yuren City's fall is inevitable. I hope he can escape alive and not die so stupidly. The cool Strange Wings monarch thought. Proudly standing on the city wall, Lin Feng looked into the distance. The sky was covered by the winged men's huge bodies. The number of winged men far exceeded that of humans. In the Tung Chi continent, the winged men were the kings, the unstoppable overlords. They're here. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Instantly, he felt two tyrannical auras. They were much stronger than the cool Strange Wings monarch. Just as the Mad Mist Wings monarch said, these were the auras of the eight-winged monarch. Two came. The three-winged monarchs are serious. Lin Feng frowned. His expression was solemn. A white light flashed in his hand. It was a brand new Peak Chaos Hole Profound Treasure Battle Saber. Jiangri. Although it was also a Peak Chaos Hole Profound Treasure, Jiangri was slightly stronger than the Soul-Severing Black Saber. It was currently the strongest Peak Chaos Hole Profound Treasure Battle Saber he could obtain. A little improvement was still a little improvement. Combat power was accumulated little by little like this. Most importantly, the Soul-Severing Black Saber was a Dark Saber, which was somewhat incompatible with his current battle, where he mainly used the Light Element. If he used the Light Element, his power would be weakened, but Crimson Sun would be strengthened. Moreover, the Warblade Red Sun has a remarkable characteristic. It had no attributes. For experts who were not strong enough, a saber with elemental abilities was more powerful and could unleash the power of the saber. However, for experts at Lin Feng's level, having no attributes was the best attribute. This was because it could perfectly merge with the six great Daos of light. This is a fusion-type saber, and it only has one ability. Crimson Sun Battle Edge. With the strengthening of the light elemental origin, the Crimson Sun Battle Edge would become even stronger. This was a battle blade that would become stronger when facing a strong opponent. For the current Lin Feng, it was a perfect fit. With this saber, his combat power would increase by at least 30%. Just nice. Lin Feng's fighting spirit sword. Holding his battle saber Jiangri, his blood boiled. This battle would be his last battle before entering the Origin Awakened Continent. Do your best. Bang! Like a sudden clap of thunder, Lin Feng did not wait for the Winged Men army to approach and attack. He charged into the Winged Men army like a shooting star, completely ignoring the majestic Winged Men army. This feeling was like a small stone thrown into the sea. The contrast was incomparably intense. However, Lin Feng was not a small stone, but a blazing sun. If he fell into the sea, he would not sink. Instead, he would evaporate the entire sea. Boom! Lin Feng did not hold back. His first move was a thunderous attack. The surging saber energy, along with the eruption of the light elemental origin, vividly displayed the Crimson Sun Battle Edge. The Crimson Sun sword, as resplendent as the sun. Everywhere the saber energy covered, white light shrouded. In an instant, it exploded in the Winged Men army. Bang! The resplendent light was incomparably dazzling, shocking both the human and Winged Men army. The first attack had killed over 1,000 Winged Men army, with countless casualties. Lin Feng killed his way into the Winged Men army with absolute strength. His eyes were cold and emotionless. The accumulated fighting spirit in his blood aura was tyrannical. He was invincible. The Winged Men army had long been frightened by the slaughter. How could they forget this terrifying killing god? the human expert who had killed them all by himself in the first battle of Yiren City. He was here again. Fear, cowardice, despair, and all sorts of negative emotions spread among the Winged Men army. Lin Feng had given the Winged Men army a head-on display from the start of the battle, crushing the already low morale of the Winged Men army to a critical point. On the contrary, the human army was greatly encouraged. Their morale was high. Charge! We're here! The new emperor! Kill these ugly birdmen! Everyone charge! Seeing that Lin Feng was invincible and that the Winged Men army could not withstand a single blow, the human army under Yu Jing's lead charged out crazily. They did not need any cover and engaged in an intense battle with the Winged Men in the flat sky. They did not need any geographical advantage or defense. At the moment, morale and fighting spirit were enough to make up for everything. The human army was like a sharp knife that pierced deeply into the Winged Men army. Under Lin Feng's command, the human army unleashed a combat strength that was several times stronger than usual. In an instant, the Winged Men army was wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. Corpses were strewn all over the field. Boom! Lin Feng attacked again. The crimson sun in his hand drank the blood of the enemy. He was extremely excited. The Crimson Sun battle edge revealed its prowess, and its combat strength was not inferior to the soul-severing black saber. Bang! None of the Winged Men dared to approach Lin Feng's location. In this tragic battlefield, a vacuum was formed. It was very strange. Lin Feng, who had started a massacre, was no longer killing the enemy. Instead, he stood there quietly, as if waiting for something. His mission had been completed, which was to help the human army open up the situation. The Winged Men army could not be wiped out. Even if they could, the human experts would suffer heavy losses. As the saying went, kill 1,000 enemies, lose 800 of your own men. No matter how great the difference in morale was, the difference in numbers was not on the same level. The Winged Men army was dozens of times larger than the human army. Just like the first battle to defend Yiren City, the key to winning this battle was the battle between the top forces. If the dragon head was killed, the Winged Men army would naturally lose without a fight. Swish! Swish! In the sky ahead, two figures that were clearly taller than the other winged men appeared. 4 pairs of wings flapped behind their backs, emitting a powerful aura. 2 pairs of cold eyes were emotionless. 8-winged winged king. You are that human. 8-winged winged king, Zhu, Shou narrowed his eyes. Come! Lin Feng raised the crimson sun. With a roar, divine patterns of light appeared one after another. His aura instantly soared. Just now he was only warming up. Now he was truly at his strongest. Boom! Without any nonsense, Lin Feng went straight for 8-winged winged king Zhu Shou. His fighting spirit suddenly erupted. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1674. Ordinary Black Domain Master, Advanced Black Domain Master, and Pinnacle Black Domain Master. The most fundamental difference was the comprehension of the spatial laws. Comprehending the elementary, true meaning of space would allow one to become an ordinary Black Domain Master. Comprehending the intermediate true meaning of space would allow one to become an advanced Black Domain Master. Comprehending the advanced true meaning of space, one would become a Pinnacle Black Domain Master. However, this was only for the winged race. For other races, comprehending the true meaning of space was much more difficult. In fact, as long as one comprehended the true meaning of space, one would become a Black Domain Master. It was that simple. What was left was the difference in strength. For example, Lin Feng's main body had only comprehended the intermediate true meaning of space, crushing not long ago. However, he had already become an advanced Black Domain Master. Although he had yet to comprehend the advanced true meaning of space, his combat strength had already reached the Pinnacle Black Domain Master. However, the winged race was different. Every winged race member who became a Pinnacle Black Domain Master would definitely comprehend the advanced true meaning of space. Because the winged monarch's blood essence inheritance contained the comprehended high-level true meaning of space. When combined with the true meaning of space, the winged monarch would naturally become a top-notch master of Black region. However, it was precisely because the blood essence was too powerful that it shackled the winged monarch's original bloodline, making it difficult for them to advance further. This was a double-edged sword. It depended on how one used it. However, every pinnacle Black domain master's control of the advanced true meaning of the winged race was genuine. You don't know the difference between life and death. The 8-winged Guardian Orange didn't care about Lin Feng's attacks at all. The wings on its back slashed out like battle blades, moving in extremely fast speed. It displayed the true intent of space to its fullest extent. The crisscrossing attacks from all directions were like a huge net capturing its prey. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. His opponent wasn't using the advanced true meaning, but the intermediate one. In the past, when he fought against the winged race, he almost never used the true meaning of space because it was like selling a big axe in front of Liu Ban. However, it was different now. The newly transformed Black Vortex had already reached the 3rd stage. His current spatial talent wasn't any weaker than the winged race. It was even comparable to the winged monarch. The opponent before his eyes wasn't as strong as the 8-winged monarch, but was much stronger than the 6-winged monarch. Such an opponent was a good opportunity to test his spatial talent. Lin Feng directly displayed the intermediate true meaning of space. Crushing, offensive true meaning of space. Compared to Guardian Orange, the true meaning of space displayed by the 8-winged king was more concentrated and powerful. Oh, haha! When the 8-winged Guardian Orange saw Lin Feng flaunting his mid-grade true meaning of space in front of him, he was already laughing in his heart. This was the first time he had seen such a foolish human. The winged men of the northern continent are really weak. Even such stupid humans can defeat them. The 8-winged winged king's evaluation of Lin Feng could not be any lower. In his opinion, killing such a human was as easy as flipping his hand. To him, it was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Is Lin Feng crazy? The cool Wonder Wing monarch also widened his eyes in shock. The other winged monarchs had the same expression as the Guardian Orange 8-winged winged monarch. They all mocked the humans for overestimating themselves. Only the 8-winged winged monarch frowned slightly. He felt that something was amiss. Suddenly, the 8-winged winged monarch widened his eyes and roared. However, it was already too late. Lin Feng and the 8-winged winged monarch clashed head-on. The 8-winged winged monarch's smug expression instantly turned pale. A tyrannical force completely crushed his spatial energy and blasted towards him. How is this possible? The 8-winged winged monarch was extremely shocked. His body forcefully endured the terrifying crushing force. Get lost! With a roar, the 8-winged winged monarch's strength suddenly erupted. The 4 pairs of wings on his back blossomed with bright light. While defending against Lin Feng's attack, they also dissipated the astonishing spatial energy. He gritted his teeth. However, suddenly, a huge cross appeared in front of him. The spatial energy was even more tyrannical and dense than before. Spatial mystic treasure, cross returned to 0. Illusory cross. Lin Feng's attack caused the entire space to distort. A silver cross suddenly enlarged. Every silver blade was like a battle blade, slashing towards the 8-winged winged monarch. It was very similar to his previous attack. An eye for an eye, an eye for an eye. However, Lin Feng's attack was faster, and the spatial energy was denser. Moreover, the time difference was extremely good. Before the 8-winged winged monarch could stabilize his footing, he was immediately beaten black and blue. With a furious roar, a cross appeared inexplicably around him. It was like a huge cage. Every side was filled with dense spatial energy. It constantly shrank, and the spatial energy became even more concentrated. A control technique. The second layer of the cross to 0, cross cage. Before the 8-winged winged king could break through the barrier, a powerful force that was like Mount Tai collapsing and the earth collapsing came crashing down. This time, the power was more than 10 times stronger than the previous 2 combined. With the cross in hand, Lin Feng was like a god descending to the mortal world. The spatial energy gathered was stronger than any winged person's. The black vortex spun rapidly, perfectly displaying Lin Feng's spatial talent. It can't be. The four-winged wing monarch was completely stunned. He never thought that Lin Feng would become so terrifying in just 3 days. It was completely different from the day when they fought. If Lin Feng had this kind of strength back then, he would have turned into ashes long ago. How can a human have such a powerful spatial talent? The eight-winged wing monarch was as shocked as any other winged person. He had never seen a human with such a powerful spatial talent. Even he could not compare. Although he did not want to admit it, the eight-winged wing monarch knew that this human spatial talent was probably comparable to the wing monarch's. The four-winged wing monarch and the four-winged wing monarch lost to him. It's not an injustice. The eight-winged wing monarch's expression was solemn. On the other side, the eight-winged wing monarch was battered and exhausted. Due to a moment of carelessness, he did not even have a chance to counterattack. The eight-winged wing monarch was forced to retreat again and again, spitting out blood. He had already cursed Lin Feng thousands of times in his heart, but he could not change the situation. His strength was originally far from Lin Feng's. Right now, he didn't even have the power to turn the situation around. Under Lin Feng's autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, he was completely suppressed by just the power of space. If not for the fact that the eight-winged king had experienced hundreds of battles and had a strong enough defense, he would have died a long time ago. Boom! Around him, a force stronger than the eight-winged wing monarch appeared in an instant. It went straight for Lin Feng without holding back. His eyes were calm and wise, and his body was strong. His attacks were neither fast nor slow, and his attacks were methodical. It was Yu Mingzi who had been observing from his side. He naturally wouldn't let Zhu Shou's eight-winged wing king get killed here. Finally willing to make a move, Lin Feng was not afraid. Instead, he laughed. He had been keeping an eye on this eight-winged wing monarch. He was the strongest winged ruler on the battlefield. Defeating him would be a huge blow to the winged people. Chapter 1675. From the information he received from the Mad Mist Wing King and Yu Shui, the reason why the winged race attacked again was because of the three winged rulers' orders. The two eight-winged winged kings were the commanders. As long as they were killed, the crisis would be resolved. Lin Feng had been holding back and didn't kill the eight-winged winged king. He could have done it with his strength, but he knew that there was an even calmer and stronger eight-winged winged king eyeing him covetously. He wouldn't ignore Lin Feng killing his comrade. As long as Lin Feng was ruthless, the eight-winged winged king would definitely act. Therefore, what Lin Feng needed to do was to slowly grind this eight-winged winged king until he couldn't fight anymore. He just needed to ensure that the two winged kings wouldn't join forces and attack him at the same time. Right now, it was just a tag team battle. One-on-one was much different from one-on-two. Cross-cage. Lin Feng's first attack was a control technique. The reason why the eight-winged wing king was in so much pain and didn't even have the strength to fight back was because of this. Once a control technique was successfully used, the restraining power would be very strong. Otherwise, the eight-winged king wouldn't have been defeated so miserably without being able to use a high-level spatial true meaning. The eight-winged king shouldn't have been defeated so miserably. Break! The eight-winged king, Yu Mingzi, wasn't someone to be trifled with. As calm as he was, he had already learned about Lin Feng's fighting style and information. He wouldn't underestimate Lin Feng like the eight-winged king did. This human in front of him couldn't be treated as a human. He was completely different. The eight-winged wing king was able to break through Lin Feng's control technique with ease. Not only that, but the space around them shrank as if it was filled with lightning. Spatial lightning snakes tore at them from all directions. Anti-control. Although the eight-winged king's spatial talent wasn't as good as Lin Feng's, he was using a stronger spatial true meaning. Moreover, he was a winged race after all. Compared to Lin Feng, who had only started cultivating halfway, he knew how to use the spatial laws to his advantage. If Lin Feng could use spatial power to fight 1,000,000 times, He might be stronger than the eight-winged king, but now he was still lacking. Lin Feng also didn't think that he could win against his opponent by relying on the power of space. This was never his forte, nor was it an offensive move that he excelled in. What he was really good at was the saber. Red Sun, boom! The battle blade, Crimson Sun, revealed its magnificence. Dense light energy erupted, and a layer of faint luster appeared on Lin Feng's body. The divine patterns of light condensed all over his body and merged with the battle blade. The saber technique realm of the heavenly Dao Marrow was fully displayed at this moment. Silver plateau saber technique, thorny cover. Chi. The intense saber gleam displayed the full potential of the heavenly path imbued marrow. Indeed, Lin Feng's saber technique hadn't improved. Although his body strength had increased slightly, it was still at the peak of the Black Domain Master level. What had changed was the laws of the heavenly Tao. After completing the first stage of fusion, the law of light had already surpassed perfection by a full 10 times. It was much stronger than the first stage of an ordinary fusion. The fusion of the 6 great Taos of light brought about an even stronger Crimson Sun battle edge. Lin Feng's attack level rose sharply. Streaks of lightning collapsed in all directions, unable to get close at all. Very strong. The eight-winged king's expression became even more serious. The human in front of him was stronger than he had expected. Pursing his lips, the eight-winged king didn't want to continue fighting. He retreated while blocking. His opponent's attack made him feel a deep sense of fear. This was a very strong opponent. He really isn't an ordinary human. First, it was Emperor Yu. Now, it's a human with such tyrannical spatial talent and saber technique realm. What kind of treasure did the humans of the northern continent discover that could strengthen their strength to this extent? The eight-winged king's heart trembled. No wonder the 3 winged rulers were determined to eliminate the threat of the humans. We have to eliminate them. The eight-winged king knew very well that one might be a coincidence, but what about 2? How could there be so many coincidences in the world? The rise of the humans must have their secrets. Since they couldn't find out, they might as well eliminate them all. At least the winged race was still in charge of the Tung Chi continent now. Although it would take a lot of effort to exterminate the humans, it wasn't as impossible as exterminating the river demon race. With a myriad of thoughts in his mind, the eight-winged king and Lin Feng quickly exchanged blows. Although he was stronger than the eight-winged king and calmer in battle, one thing didn't change. Lin Feng's current strength was still above his. Even without using any chaos hold dark treasures, Lin Feng could defeat the eight-winged king. However, his opponent had tyrannical defense and strong willpower. Even if his strength was slightly inferior, it wouldn't be easy to defeat him. This battle was extremely intense. The winged race army and human experts were all shocked. Has this kid been hiding his strength all this time? The four-winged king was surprised and delighted. Although he was on the winged race's side, he was more concerned about himself. The winged race's victory didn't benefit him at all. On the contrary, Lin Feng becoming stronger would be of great help to him. He and Lin Feng had an alliance agreement. Entering the Origin Awakening continent was what the four-winged king wanted. This is too scary. How can this be? Even the eight-winged king isn't his match. Monster. This human is a monster. The other winged race people weren't as open-minded as the four-winged king. They had personally witnessed this human expert's strength on the battlefield. He was unimaginably strong, and they didn't have any fighting spirit left in their hearts. Could they really defeat such a human? The winged race people's faces were ashen, and they had no fighting spirit left. If the difference in strength was only a little, they could still rely on numbers and fighting spirit to defeat their opponent. But with such a difference in strength, their confidence had long been destroyed. The new emperor. The new emperor is too awesome. Kill those reckless winged race people. We have the new emperor. Who's afraid of who? Ha 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 ha. The human experts, whose morale was high, exploded with more and more power. They killed until the winged race people wailed and howled and retreated. Victory after victory built up the confidence of the humans. Because they had him. The new emperor, Lin Feng. Boom! With a blade that shook the heavens, Lin Feng heavily injured Yu Mingzi and the Eight-Winged King. Yu Mingzi and the Eight-Winged King's strength was indeed inferior to Lin Feng's. It was already good that they could last until now. The moment they were sent flying, Yu Mingzi and the Eight-Winged King's eyes flashed. As they entered the army of winged race people, they quickly used the true meaning of space. Qi-La, a tear appeared in space, and half of Yu Mingzi and the Eight-Winged King's body disappeared. They escaped very quickly, but Lin Feng was even faster. Hua, a huge golden net was cast down, trapping Yu Mingzi and the Eight-Winged King like a fish in a net. Gray Slave wore a simple and honest smile as he retracted the net. The heaven-capturing net, which was at the level of a cardinal treasure, completely countered the Tao of space. Yu Mingzi and the Eight-Winged King closed their eyes in despair. He had lost. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1676. 2 Eight-Winged monarchs were captured. Lin Feng's tyrannical strength had completely ignited the atmosphere of the battlefield. The morale of the human experts was high, and under Lin Feng's encouragement, they won successive battles, causing the winged men to be defeated like a landslide. On the contrary, the winged men's morale was already low. Even with the 2 Eight-Winged monarchs leading them, their morale was low, not to mention now that the 2 Eight-Winged monarchs had been defeated. The only one who was happy was probably the cool, strange winged monarch. This fellow revealed a miserable expression as he happily ordered the winged men to retreat. His heart was already blooming with joy. He completely saw Lin Feng's strength, and now it was enough to help him pass through the gate of Origin Enlightened. Soon, he would be able to enter the Origin Enlightened continent. What did the life and death of the winged men have to do with him? This battle was even faster than the battle 1,000 years ago. At that time, the winged monarch was determined to capture Yurin City, and the winged men's army was bursting with confidence. But this time, the cool, strange winged monarch was forced into battle, and the winged men's army had no fighting spirit. They came quickly, but they also lost quickly. Soon, the winged men's army retreated, leaving corpses and blood all over the ground. The human army let out a loud roar as they crowded around their great new emperor, Lin Feng. The prestige of the Yurin race was completely overshadowed by Lin Feng. However, the Yurin race did not have any jealousy or indignation. Instead, they were sincerely admiring, convinced, and grateful like the other humans. Because without Lin Feng, Yurin City would have long been gone. Yurin race, main hall. What? Give up Yurin City? Yu Shui and everyone in Yujing were stunned. Lin Feng nodded and swept his gaze across. Yurin City has been the benchmark of a human race for too long, and the 3 winged monarchs see it as a thorn in their side. It was fine before, but the strength Emperor Yurin displayed when he challenged the mountain-breaking winged monarch has caused the winged men to want to kill the human race. The battle 1,000 years ago was just a small test, and this battle is a scouting troop. Failure and casualties are not worth mentioning to the winged men. If I'm not wrong, the next wave of attacks will not only come faster, but it will also be stronger. The winged men's commander will be even more terrifying. Yu Qing's pretty face paled as she exclaimed, "Even Big Brother Lin is no match for him." Lin Feng shook his head. "Even if I can win, I can only win again at most, because if the Wingman clan is unable to take down Yurin City again, then the next one to come will be the 3-Wing Emperor S." Yu Shui and Yu Jing's expressions were extremely unsightly. They were well aware of the methods and capabilities of the Winged Men clan. They would not give up until they achieved their goal. At the end of the day, the strength of the humans was indeed inferior to that of the Winged Men clan. In fact, it was far inferior. Everyone's faces were ashen. Lin Feng's words were too much for them to accept. They had taken root in Yurin City for countless eras. Whether it was themselves or the other human races, they all relied on Yurin City greatly. Lin Feng saw this, but didn't say anything. He also knew that it was impossible for them to give up on Yurin City all of a sudden. There was always a bit of luck in people's hearts. There was also a bit of emotion. Not everyone could do everything rationally. Even he could not do it. This is just my personal suggestion. Moreover, I believe that the Winged Men clan's next attack won't be so fast. Everyone can take their time to think about it and brainstorm, Lin Feng said tactfully. I think so. The Winged Men clan might be afraid of us. They might not dare to come again. The three Winged Emperors aren't on good terms with each other. I don't think they will make a big fuss. That's right. The situation in the North Continent is so chaotic. Compared to the other three continents, they might not come. All the elders of the Yu clan spoke one after another, and all of them revealed optimistic attitudes. Only the patriarch, Yu Shui, remained silent and had an extremely solemn expression. As for Yu Jing, he trusted Lin Feng's words completely. Lin Feng didn't say much. He had said what he needed to say. It was up to them to do what they wanted. Suddenly, "Brother Lin, are you leaving?" Yu Shui suddenly raised his head and looked at Lin Feng. "Yes," Lin Feng answered softly. He didn't hide it. Gasps could be heard from the surroundings. The Yurin race elders, who were talking excitedly and complacently, had ugly expressions. They hurriedly tried to persuade him to stay. However, they naturally couldn't move Lin Feng. "Must you leave?" Yu Shui looked at Lin Feng. "Yes." Lin Feng nodded. Yu Shui sighed softly and nodded. He forced a smile and said, "No matter where you go, I wish you good luck. Also, on behalf of the human race, I thank you for what you have done for the human race." With gratitude in his heart, Yu Shui wasn't a mediocre and short-sighted person. He knew very well that if it weren't for Lin Feng, there wouldn't be a need to discuss whether to give up Yurin City. After all, Yurin City had already been conquered during the first battle. The Winged Men race was weak in comparison to Lin Feng. In fact, the Winged Men race was really strong. They were much stronger than the human race. "It's what I should do." Lin Feng smiled and nodded at Yu Shui. He then stood up and said, "What I said just now was from the bottom of my heart. Clan leader Yu, please consider it." "I will," Yu Shui said seriously. "See you again. Goodbye." After giving instructions, Lin Feng left the inner city of the Yurin race and headed to the outer city. Whether the Yurin race would leave or not wasn't within his control. However, the other human races had the right to know. Whether they left or not was up to them. However, he had to tell them this news, because he didn't want them to die without knowing anything. Perhaps the Yurin race couldn't accept it now, but the truth was the truth. It wouldn't change because they couldn't accept it. Not only the Yurin race, but all the other human races. In at most 100 years, the Third War will break out. In my opinion, everyone should leave as soon as possible and find a place to settle down. If you really don't want to leave, or if you want to be lucky, I hope you can at least find a way out. Otherwise, when the time comes, you'll be caught off guard. That's all I have to say. After today, I will leave. Thank you for your trust in me these days." Lin Feng smiled faintly at the stunned crowd before he left. Although it was not his wish to become the new emperor, since he had gained the trust of everyone, it was only right for him to bid them farewell and finish what he had started. As for what they thought, it did not matter. Everything was fine as long as they could get past him. There were all kinds of voices urging him to stay. Although Lin Feng's heart was rippling, he wouldn't change his mind. In the end, he didn't belong here. He came from a Milky Way, from Earth, from the Huaxia civilization. There was less than an arrow left. Only by entering the Origin Awakening continent could he turn the impossible into possible and create a miracle. Even if there was only a trace of hope, he wouldn't give up. Where there's a will, there's a way. Lin Feng firmly believed. To read the latest novel, please visit Chapter 1677. Since he was preparing to leave, Lin Feng naturally wouldn't drag things out. The Mad Mistwing Monarch, the former ruler of the winged race in the northern continent, was indeed a tough nut to crack. He wasn't willing to submit no matter what. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't be so merciful as to let him go. Even the 8-winged Guardian Orange King, who was also disdainful of humans, was killed. Hua! The 9th beast-taming bead chain lit up. Lin Feng looked at the shining 9th bead in his hand with satisfaction. After Wu Jin and Old Demon Golden Flame, there was another person with combat strength. Although the winged King Yumming's strength wasn't on par with his own, the difference wasn't much. The strength of a peak master of the Dark Region was even stronger than the sealed Wujin and old demon Golden Flame. Moreover, he was from the winged race. It was much more convenient for him to do things in the Tengqi continent. Master, Yu Mingzi knelt on one knee and said respectfully. Lin Feng looked at Yu Mingzi and said, I know your wish. After entering the Origin Awakened continent, if there is a chance, I won't mistreat you. The eight-winged guardian Yu Mingzi, his strength wasn't bad and his mind was firm. The only pity was that his aptitude was ordinary. In the end, he relied on the winged monarch's blood essence to break through and become a top-notch Dark Region master. Since then, his strength was sealed and couldn't improve anymore. His wish was to enter the Origin Awakened continent, because only there could he have the chance to change his fate. In this aspect, he was very similar to the cool and strange wings monarch. Thank you, Master, Yu Mingzi said. Compared to the Mad Mist Wing Monarch and the Orange Guardian Wing Monarch, Yu Mingzi was more rational. Even if surrendering to the lowly humans was worse than death for the proud winged race, he still did it. Because if he died, he would lose everything. Only by living would there be hope. Moreover, Yu Mingzi believed that this human in front of him wasn't an ordinary human. Surrendering to humans might not be a bad choice. At least, he believed that humans were very smart and emotional. This was different from the winged race. Xiao Jie was sent to the North Chan River to cultivate. Compared to the land, the Chan River was safer. Even the winged race didn't dare to invade the Chan River. They had already tasted too much of it. The present Beichan River was under Lin Feng's rule. Tang Luanfeng and Violet Electric were the pillars of North Chan River's power structure, but both of them had formed soul contracts with Lin Feng. Moreover, North Chan River's cultivation conditions were indeed better than Yuran City's. After that, Lin Feng went to the White Will tribe to visit his old friends. Then, he went to the secret realm of space. Although Ai Huan, who had entered the Tengqi continent with him, had made remarkable progress, her strength was still far inferior to his. Lin Feng naturally couldn't bring her to the Origin Awakening continent, so he could only ask her to be careful and go to the North Chan River if she encountered any danger that she couldn't deal with. That was all he could do. What was interesting was that in the Crushing Space Secret Realm, he did not meet the people from the Gluttonous Thunder Clan who were the first to cultivate here. Instead, he met the people from a Milky Way alliance who were his friends. Although Lin Feng had turned enemies into friends and was taking care of them, it was more of a matter of morality and righteousness. He did not really treat them as friends. However, as the saying goes, you reap what you sow. The kindness he had planted before was rewarded. A wandering planet? Lin Feng opened his mouth slightly, quite surprised. Not to mention himself. Even if he went through all the ancient books of the Yuran clan, there was no record of the origin of the Tengqi continent. However, from I Ching's words, it seemed to be true. The Tengqi continent was actually a wandering planet. The 7 great empires have calculated that the Milky Way super black hole is far from entering its declining period. It entered from the first stage to the second stage so quickly that it was completely unreasonable. Previously, we could not find a reason why. However, the appearance of the Tengqi continent in the ancient Myriad World's secret realm solved all the doubts. Wandering planets not only have rich space energy, but they can also absorb space energy. They survive by absorbing space energy to maintain their life. This is a kind of instinct. In the universe, the most concentrated space energy is the black hole. It is precisely because of the existence of the Tengqi continent that the Milky Way super black hole in our Milky Way galaxy is declining very quickly. With the current energy of the Milky Way super black hole, it will be absorbed in less than an era and collapse into cosmic dust. I Ching spoke with confidence, telling Lin Feng everything without holding back. A pair of red eyes glanced at Lin Feng from time to time. He could see that Lin Feng was very interested in this. I Ching was good at catering to people's interests. Now was different from the past, so he naturally had to flatter Lin Feng. Here, with Lin Feng as a backer, not only was it much safer, but it would also benefit a lot. I see. Lin Feng suddenly understood. If I Ching had said this to him when he had just entered the Tengqi continent, he might have held back and half believed it. However, even if I Ching's words were not 100% true, they were at least 90% true. This was because the Milky Way's limit for the next era had been confirmed. The Tengqi continent is indeed not ordinary. Lin Feng's heart trembled. He had always suspected that this place was completely different from an ordinary planet. Even 9-star life planet should not be like this. The space energy was so majestic and refined while the other laws and energies were ordinary. In terms of the level of powerhouses, the current upper limit was the Black Domain Master, so it was reasonable to say that it was an 8-star life planet. The strength of each planet's energy was determined by the level of life. The upper limit of powerhouses was determined by the strength of their energy. However, the Tengqi continent was completely different from an ordinary 8-star life planet. What other characteristics does a wandering planet have other than absorbing space energy? Lin Feng asked curiously. I Ching said, "There's nothing else, but wandering planets are very interesting. Other planets are like big trees, firmly rooted in place, but wandering planets are like spirits, running all the way to the ground and absorbing space energy. According to ancient books, this is called instinct. Wandering planets have the instinct to absorb space energy, and they themselves are protected by space laws." Lin Feng nodded. Such a planet was indeed unheard of. It was as if it had grown legs, running around, and absorbing the space energy of a black hole. Then it went to the next place and absorbed the next black hole. This was not just an instinct. It was a kind of hunting. Do wandering planets have consciousness? Lin Feng asked. I Ching shook his head. I don't think so, but it's hard to say. Everything in the universe is life and can have spiritual intelligence. Even a rock or a grain of sand can have spiritual intelligence. Why can't a planet? Wandering planets are so special. Maybe they have spiritual intelligence. Lin Feng nodded. Maybe. The more he knew, the more he yearned for the origin awakening continent. That was the core of the Tengqi continent. The more dangerous and mysterious it was, the more likely he would be able to obtain. Wandering planets. Lin Feng's eyes flickered, and his heart was moved. Chapter 1678. After talking with I Ching, not only did Lin Feng become more interested in the origin awakened continent, but he also gained a deeper understanding of the entire Tengqi continent. This was not an ordinary world, and it hid many secrets. A wandering planet. Even his teacher, the true dragon sovereign, had never mentioned it. It was probably rarer than the 10,000 origin mustard stone. It could absorb spatial energy and destroy black holes. It was simply unheard of. Even a 9-star life planet did not have such a heaven-defying ability. Turning enemies into friends with I Ching and the others that day was the right choice. Otherwise, he would not have been able to obtain so much information. The more he knew, the more helpful it would be to him. Lin Feng headed to the winged men's territory. He had done everything he needed to do. Yuren City would definitely be lost. As long as the human race left a way out and did not go extinct, they would also have a chance to rise in the future. If there was the first Yuren Huang, there would be a second and a third. However, he still did not understand why Yuren Huang would challenge the Broken Mountain Winged Emperor. He was the emperor of a race and a supreme powerhouse of the human race. There was no reason for him to be so impulsive and disregard the consequences. No matter who won or lost, Yuren Huang was actually the loser. Why is he doing this? Lin Feng couldn't figure it out. Along the way, he could not figure out at all. Lin Feng did not think too much about it, because he had already reached the winged men's territory. Thud! Lin Feng landed steadily on the ground covered in yellow sand. His indifferent figure was so small in front of the winged men powerhouses, but the hundreds of winged men around him kept retreating as Lin Feng stepped forward. Their eyes revealed panic and fear. The wingless men dared to approach within 300 meters. The new human emperor Lin Feng's name was so resounding. The winged men had returned in defeat after the 2 battles in Yuren City, leaving an indelible impression in the hearts of these winged men powerhouses. The human in front of them was a monster that could not be defeated. Lin Feng naturally would not start a massacre, because there was no need for him to familiarize himself with the path to find the king of cool and strange wings. Soon, he saw that the cool, strange wings emperor was already waiting for him. During the second battle in Yurin City, the cool, strange wings monarch had seen it all. He was fully aware of his own strength. The current him was completely capable of bringing him past the Guardians and into the gate of Origin Enlightened. Haha, brother Lin Feng, you're finally here. The cool and strange wings monarch came forward enthusiastically and laughed heartily. You defeated 2 8-winged wings monarchs in a row. Good job. You don't know how anxious I was at that time. I can't afford to offend those 2 lords. The cool strange wings king poured out his grievances and kept explaining. All right, you don't have to say so much. Lin Feng smiled and interrupted. He knew what the cool strange wings king meant. He was afraid that if he left in a fit of anger, no one would help him defeat the Guardian. Are you ready? Lin Feng asked. Of course. I've already prepared it. Seeing that Lin Feng had skipped this part, the cool and strange wings king was naturally eager. He laughed loudly and made a gesture of invitation. Brother Lin Feng, this way. Lin Feng nodded and followed. The winged men race's territory was huge. They were the kings of this continent, and their secret realms were filled with mysterious auras and rich in spatial energy. They were many times stronger than the Yurin secret realm in Yurin City. Just a small Yurin secret realm, and the humans are already treating it like a treasure. Lin Feng sighed inwardly. Such secret realms could be seen everywhere in the winged men race's territory. In addition, the winged men race's spatial talent was much greater than the humans. It was naturally easy to suppress the humans in terms of numbers. Brother Lin Feng, are you interested in these secret realms? The cool and strange wings king smiled. Who wouldn't be interested in spatial secret realms? Lin Feng smiled. The cool and strange wings king said straightforwardly, if Brother Lin Feng is interested, you can cultivate here as you wish. Everything in the winged men race's territory can be used by Brother Lin Feng. There will be no restrictions. Lin Feng smiled. No need. How could he not know what the cool and strange wings king was thinking? The winged men race couldn't wait for him to stay here. That way, they wouldn't have to bear the crime of betraying the winged men race. Ha! The cool and strange wings king didn't mind. He was just casually mentioning it. There are very few secret realms in the northern continent, and most of them are elementary ones. There aren't many intermediate ones, and there isn't even a single advanced one. Lin Feng nodded. For example, the Yurin secret realm was an elementary one. This kind of secret realm was useful for chaos holes, but it was dispensable for black domain masters. As for intermediate space secret realms, such as the suppressive space secret realms he had discovered, they were useful to ordinary dark domain masters. However, they were of little value when it came to advancing to dark domain masters. Only by entering an advanced secret realm could one comprehend the advanced true meaning of space and become a top-notch black domain master. That's why there are almost no top-notch black domain masters in the northern continent. Of course, one didn't have to enter an advanced secret realm to comprehend the advanced true meaning of space. However, with a place to cultivate, it would be much easier. The cool and strange wings king nodded. Even in the other 3 continents, there are very few advanced secret realms. Lin Feng smiled. That's why top-notch black domain masters are so rare. The winged men were different from humans. They relied on their advanced true meaning of space and their bloodline to become top-notch black domain masters. Moreover, these advanced secret realms are under the control of the 3 winged monarchs. We can only enter if they allow us to. Without their permission, we won't be able to enter for the rest of our lives, no matter how talented we are. The cool and strange wings king lowered his eyebrows, containing a trace of indignation. Lin Feng nodded. It was obvious that the cool and strange wings king was ambitious and unwilling to admit defeat. Moreover, he was very confident that his strength was far greater than what he had now. So, entering Origin Awakened Continent will change? Lin Feng asked. The cool and strange wings king nodded heavily. Origin Awakened continent is very chaotic. It's like a hell forest where dragons and snakes gather. There are secret realms, natural barriers, and danger zones everywhere. Although the winged men are powerful, they are only one of the many factions. There, I'll have more opportunities to grow, better fruits of heaven and earth, better spatial secret realms, and better opportunities. It is said that Origin Awakened continent not only has advanced secret realms, but also top-notch secret realms. With great ambition, the cool and strange Wings King was looking forward to the upcoming trip to Origin Awakened continent. Lin Feng saw this and smiled. He was very clear that this was just a beautiful dream. One had to pay the price to obtain as much as they wanted. If Origin Awakened continent was really so good, it wouldn't be so revered. It was very dangerous. Even ordinary mutated beasts had the strength of a black domain master. Even if they were slightly stronger, they would have the strength of a top-notch black domain master. Let alone the cool and strange Wings King. Even he would have to tread on thin ice if he entered. We're here. The cool and strange Wings King's eyes brightened. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1679. The Protector was not a winged person. The Origin Enlightened Gate itself was not some rare object. It was just a passage, a special passage to the Origin Enlightened continent. There was only one condition for opening the passage. Defeat the Protector, and you can open the Origin Enlightened Gate, Lin Feng murmured. That's right. Brother Lin Feng, is that enough? The cool strange Wings King glanced at Lin Feng. Anytime, Lin Feng said. The cool strange Wings King nodded and said solemnly, Then I'll go in? Lin Feng smiled and nodded. As the cool strange Wings King entered, the entire space trembled slightly. It was like a violently shaking carriage that was heading towards a space-time tunnel. A light appeared in front of them. Roar! A violent roar pierced through the sky. The trembling of space became incomparably intense, and a powerful aura suddenly appeared. It was an enormous, majestic, and black-faced beast with a white light between its eyebrows. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws. Its aura was ferocious and majestic. Under the white light, illusory figures constantly appeared as energy continuously gathered. Beast Spirit! Clang! Lin Feng instantly attacked with Crimson Sun in his hand. The Silver Plateau Saber technique was fully displayed. At the Heavenly Path's Marrow Realm, Lin Feng's divine patterns of light bloomed as he fused the first stage of the 6 paths of light, displaying a power that was 10 times more perfect than before. The moment he attacked, he had the combat strength of a top-notch black domain master. Strength against strength. The black-faced beast attacks were similarly simple and direct. There were no fancy moves to speak of. The Grandao was simple. It used its powerful physical body to erupt with strength. Although it seemed simple, it had already fused its attack technique into every attack. Just like a hunter hunting, when still, the bow was knocked on the string. When moving, it was as fast as lightning. Pung! In an instant, Lin Feng retreated 3 steps. His eyes were filled with ferocity, and his battle intent didn't decrease at all. The Silver Plateau Saber technique once again erupted, and the divine light runes on his body shone brightly. He once again used pure strength to attack the black-faced beast. Boom! 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 Lin Feng's aura was like thunder descending from the heavens, unstoppable. In terms of strength, he naturally couldn't compare to the black-faced beast. However, in terms of battle intent, he was far above the black-faced beast. This was especially true for the Silver Plateau Saber technique, which had reached the pinnacle of the heavenly Dao Marrow realm. One was pure power. One was the combination of skill and strength. They were evenly matched. Perhaps the black-faced giant beast was a bit stronger, but Lin Feng's fighting spirit made up for this slight disadvantage. The astonishing attack, which was like a collision of meteorites, caused the cool, strange Wings King to be dumbstruck. This guy's going to fight a guardian head-on? The cool Oddwings monarch was completely dumbfounded. Previously, when he joined forces with the frenzied Mist-Winged King, they were all waiting for an opportunity to make a move. Only an idiot would fight head-on against such a terrifying guardian. There was simply no chance of victory. But today, Lin Feng's attack broadened his horizons. How could a human, whose physical strength and aptitude were even worse than the winged men clans, fight head-on with the guardian, whose physical body was abnormally powerful? Unbelievable. Madman, this guy is really crazy. The king of cool and strange wings murmured. As he watched Lin Feng and the protectors battle tirelessly, his heart was in turmoil, and it was difficult for him to calm down. Thinking back to the battle in Yuren City, where he had defeated 2 8-winged wing kings consecutively, King Kiki was even more convinced of Lin Feng's strength. He was really very strong. Fortunately, I made the right choice. The king of cool and strange wings secretly felt lucky. If he was as stubborn as the frenzied mist-winged king, he would have died long ago. Choosing to ally with Lin Feng and even betray the winged men clan instead of going against him was a very wise decision. He did not interfere. The king of cool and strange wings watched quietly from the side. Firstly, the battle was too intense for him to intervene. Secondly, whether Lin Feng needed him to intervene was still a question. Thirdly, the two sides were evenly matched, and the protectors did not have any advantage. On the contrary, Lin Feng, who had experienced a little embarrassment at the beginning, became braver as the battle went on, and began to turn defense into offense. Amazing. Too amazing. Other than admiration, the king of cool and strange wings could not express his current feelings. Previously, he thought that even if they joined forces, they might not be able to defeat the protectors. Now, just Lin Feng alone could almost pass. This contrast made the king of cool and strange wings both excited and shocked. Soon, as Lin Feng's attacks gradually strengthened, the protectors' defense gradually became passive, and they began to be injured under the attacks. Lin Feng would not let go of such an opportunity, and quickly expanded his offensive, completely suppressing the protectors. Boom! The silver plateau blade technique burst out with a bright white light, and the power of the fusion of the 6 paths of light was fully displayed. The black-faced giant beast, which was already in danger, roared and fell heavily to the ground. Hua! White light flashed all over, enveloping the black-faced giant beast, and it gradually became transparent. As the black-faced giant beast disappeared, the source enlightened gate in front suddenly opened. The 7-colored light reflected the mystery and beauty of the source enlightened gate, leading to an unknown world. Ha! The king of cool and strange wings laughed heartily. Clenching his fists, his eyes revealed incomparable excitement. He had waited for this day for too long. Entering the source enlightened continent, he would obtain a new life, freedom, and a future with unlimited possibilities. Go, I have done what I promised you, Lin Feng said. Many thanks. The king of cool and strange wings laughed heartily, his eyes flashing. Then we will meet in the source enlightened continent, brother Lin Feng. See you in the source enlightened continent. Lin Feng bid farewell to the king of cool and strange wings. However, he also knew that this was just a beautiful wish. The source enlightened continent was so big and dangerous, not to mention the king of cool and strange wings. Even if he entered, he would find it difficult to advance. This was destined to be a rough and bumpy journey. However, the more dangerous and difficult it was, the more meaningful it was. Watching the king of cool and strange wings enter the source enlightened gate, Lin Feng sat down cross-legged and recovered his strength. In the battle with the black-faced giant beast, he had used less than 50% of his strength, far from his full strength. Was the black-faced giant beast weak? No, it was him who had become very strong. A beast spirit is only a beast spirit after all. Its intelligence, consciousness, and battle strategy are far inferior to a normal martial artist. Lin Feng clearly understood that although the black-faced giant beast strength was close to the threshold of a peak black domain master, it was only a little stronger than an advanced black domain master. With his current strength, defeating it was not difficult at all. Soon, Lin Feng recovered to the peak of his strength. Lin Feng opened the Source Awakening gate once again, and the huge figure of the giant black-faced beast roaring once again appeared in front of him. Lin Feng smiled, bent his body, and sped forward to meet it. The second battle was even simpler and easier than the first. Boom, boom, boom. In less than 10 moves, the black-faced giant beast was completely shattered. Lin Feng held the crimson sun in his hand, which shone like a scorching sun. His eyes revealed a clear, fighting spirit. After 2 warm-up battles, the blood in his body was boiling. Next, he would head to the Source Enlightened continent to challenge. To challenge even stronger experts. To challenge one's own limits. I'm coming. Lin Feng stepped into the Source Enlightened gate with anticipation and hope. Chapter 1680. Hua. His body was compressed to the limit, and a huge pressure appeared around him. Lin Feng let out a soft cry, and his eyes suddenly lit up. What entered his eyes was a scene of saber light and sword shadows. Violent roars rang out one after another, accompanied by the sound of metal clashing. It was chaos. Lin Feng swept his gaze over. In a huge camp, bonfires could be seen everywhere, and there were huge cages beside the bonfires. Some of the cages were open, some had been destroyed, and some had all kinds of experts imprisoned in them. They looked like demons and humans, and it was hard to tell for a while. There were quite a lot of races in the Origin Awakening continent, and it was said that there were thousands of races. The battle in the distance was very chaotic, and it was difficult to distinguish between the two sides. However, Lin Feng soon discovered a special race, the Tianming race, which was said to have opened the Eye of Destiny. They looked very similar to humans, but they had no hair, and their ears grew on the top of their heads like antlers. The most peculiar thing was their eyes. They were pure white in color, and within their pupils were streaks of fine cracks. They looked extremely horrifying, but this type of pupil was extremely formidable. But the most powerful thing was the Eye of Destiny between their eyes. This is the oldest race in the Tang Qi continent, the Tianming race. Although it was Lin Feng's first time seeing it, he had already learned about it from King Yumming and King Yumming. The Tianming race was the native race of the Tang Qi continent. Other races like the Winged Clan, demon race, humans, and other creatures had entered the Tang Qi continent later. There weren't many Tianming race members, and each of them was like a chief commanding the battle. The other battles in the camp were a mess. There were demons, humans, beasts, and all kinds of other races. A hodgepodge. Who was fighting who? Lin Feng didn't know it all. He only knew one thing. If he stayed here any longer, it would be very dangerous. This place wasn't like the northern continent. Almost every expert here had the strength of a top black domain master, and they weren't any weaker than him. If they treated him as an enemy, it would be troublesome. I didn't expect that I would come here after passing through the Origin Awakening gate. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Everyone who passed through the Origin Enlightened gate would enter a different location in Origin Enlightened continent. This was because the Origin Enlightened gate itself was constantly changing. Therefore, it was almost impossible for him to meet the cool and strange Wings Monarch. Previously, he hadn't thought about where he would end up after entering Origin Awakened continent, but he wouldn't be so unlucky that he would encounter a fight the moment he entered, right? Suddenly a sharp whistle resounded, and in an instant, the camp was thrown into chaos. All kinds of explosions resounded, and the space energy fluctuated violently, and even shattered under the powerful attacks. Whoosh, whoosh. The group of cultivators quickly retreated. The Destiny Race cultivators in the camp kept roaring. Their Destiny eyes flickered with a demonic light. They were incomparably furious. Run! Lin Feng had no second thoughts. Right now, he had just figured out the two sides of the battle. One side was originally in the camp, and this should be the Destiny Race's powerhouses. If his guess was correct, they were the passive defensive side. The attacking party was the hodgepodge of experts who were retreating. Although he didn't know which side was better, he didn't have a choice at the moment. He could only escape with this hodgepodge of experts because the Destiny tribe was already extremely angry. The Destiny Race's side seemed chaotic, but in reality, it wasn't. Apart from the Destiny race, the other experts' eyes are lifeless. It's obvious that their minds have been controlled. Lin Feng's heaven cultivation senses were very strong. Before he left, he had already seen some clues. The group of experts who were retreating were all free. There were no restrictions on them, and they had nothing in common either. There were demons, and humans. Many of them were youths like him. Some were expressionless, some were excited, and some had serious expressions. Whether or not they were just there to make up the numbers, it would be even more inconspicuous if he mixed among them. He would follow them first and make a decision later. If this is the Destiny race's territory, it'll be troublesome. Lin Feng thought to himself. Although he didn't know much from Yu Mingzi and Monarch, he knew that the Destiny race's influence in the Tengqi continent wasn't small. Moreover, they were extremely proficient in innate souls and had a secret technique similar to his soul contract. If he was caught, he could become a slave at any time. Let's go. Lin Feng didn't have any distracting thoughts and sped forward with all his might. Even so, he could only barely keep up with the large group. Looking at the experts in front of him who were faster than him, Lin Feng sighed. His physical strength was not only the top of the human race, but it was also one of the best among the demon race experts. However, here, there were also human experts who were faster than him. Some are treasures, some are nomological heavenly Tao, some are bloodlines. Lin Feng observed them one by one with great interest. When he first entered the Origin Awakened continent, his little nervousness had long been overshadowed by his curiosity. The martial artists here were really strong. There were all kinds of them, each with their own strengths. All of them were top-notch black domain masters. No wonder Monarch said that the Origin Awakened continent is full of treasures. It's true. Lin Feng followed the middle and rear of the group, running at full speed. Behind him, there were still sounds of fighting and explosions. The Destiny race was in hot pursuit. However, the group he was in clearly had experts covering the rear. From the way they came and went like the wind, advancing and retreating as they pleased, it seemed that this was a premeditated operation. However, this was only his guess. After all, the Origin Awakened continent was very chaotic. I didn't expect to see the Destiny race as soon as I entered. How lucky! Among the retreating group, Lin Feng was unremarkable. Following the group, he quickly passed through a swamp forest. Behind him, the pursuers didn't stop. In front of him, there was a thick fog. There was a highly toxic aura in the fog. The leader of the group seemed to be shouting something. Lin Feng didn't need to hear to know that it was a warning of the poison in the fog. There's an ambush in front. Lin Feng quickly discovered that the group in front of him had slowed down. The energy fluctuations in their aura were particularly intense. If he hadn't guessed wrong, this was most likely the territory of the Destiny race. Panic had already begun to spread within the group. All the experts revealed terrified expressions. They appeared to be at a loss as to what to do in this poisonous swamp that was filled with fog. They stopped. This is troublesome. Lin Feng clearly knew the reason. The group had stopped because the ambush in front of them was too strong. At this time, the sounds of fighting behind them were even more intense. The experts covering the rear were getting weaker and weaker. Soon, the originally long group gradually dispersed. Some youths and experts fled from the sides. Compared to the front and back, there were no Destiny race pursuers blocking the sides. It was very safe. However, Lin Feng didn't follow these youths. Even if this isn't the territory of the Destiny race, it's definitely not a safe area. Lin Feng looked around. There were no attacks on the sides because the Destiny race's attacks were concentrated on the front and back. This didn't mean that this area was safe. Escape. Perhaps they could escape. However, this was only temporary safety. It would become more and more dangerous later because they were alone. If they only cared about what was in front of them, they would die without a doubt. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1681. After thinking it through, Lin Feng naturally would not act rashly, especially since he had just entered Origin Awakened continent and was unfamiliar with the place. Not only did he know nothing about his surroundings, but he also did not know the various races of Origin Awakened continent. He did not even know the language of Origin Awakened Continent. If he were to barge into the territory of the Destiny race like this, it would be a miracle if he could get out alive. This was especially true for the Destiny race experts who had just experienced a battle. They had a belly full of anger that they had nowhere to vent. I got involved in a battle for no reason. Lin Feng smiled bitterly, but did not care too much. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they came. There was nothing to worry about. To be honest, even if there was no battle, what were the chances of him getting out alive after being teleported to the territory of the Destiny race? Thinking this way, he felt much more gratified. At the very least, he had such a large group of helpers. With such a well-planned operation, there was no reason for the Destiny race to trap him here. Lin Feng firmly believed that. Since they dared to provoke the Destiny race, they naturally had some skills. The pressure behind them was imminent. Golden weapons clashed, and the sounds of fighting became clearer and clearer. The front was also filled with endless thunder. The aura fluctuations became more and more intense, as if they were on the verge of reaching their limits. Everyone's hearts tensed up like a spring constantly being compressed. Suddenly, bang, there was a thunderclap, and the sky changed color. Thunder and lightning surged, and a crack actually appeared in the void. Lin Feng was greatly shocked. A perfect and powerful saber intent seeped into the depths of his soul, shaking the surroundings. All that was left in front of him was that saber light that tore through the sky. The heavenly Tao of the saber was completely comprehended. Just one saber strike had already reached the essence of the saber. It was a saber technique that was one level higher than the heavenly Tao marrow. Although it was only one level lower, the difference was like heaven and earth. Looking at that saber strike, Lin Feng was shocked. He would not feel this way even if he saw a perfected heavenly law. However, saber techniques were what he was best at and what he had spent the most effort on. Seeing an even stronger saber technique and the existence of the heavenly Tao, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. His eyes were bright, and his hands unconsciously clenched. A super expert. Just as he had guessed, this premeditated operation definitely had a backup plan. Although it was only one strike, Lin Feng was very certain that such a super powerhouse alone was enough to turn the entire situation around. Sure enough, there were sounds of excitement coming from the front. The group that had been frozen in fear started to move again. Many of the experts in the team looked excited. Perhaps it was because he had regained his vitality, or perhaps it was because of the appearance of this saber-wielding expert. Such a super expert, even in the Origin Awakening continent, he must be a famous figure. Lin Feng followed the group and continued forward. This time, there was no need to worry because the exit was already there. Soon, an extremely powerful saber will also came from behind, shocking the world. This super expert who used the blade had not only broken through the ambush, but he had also cut off the pursuit of the Heaven's Mandate race. He had used his great strength to forcefully open up a path to escape. Finally, Lin Feng glanced behind him. He really wanted to see this saber user fight with his own eyes. It would definitely be of great help to him in improving his strength. But now, there was no such possibility. There will always be a chance. Lin Feng followed the group forward, his heart surging. In the other 3 continents, there were people stronger than him, but there was no one who could surpass him in terms of saber techniques. But in the Origin Awakening continent, he saw one as soon as he entered. This was the hellfire of the strong, survival of the fittest. After the saber-wielding super expert took action, the group smoothly passed through the fog of the swamp. After several days, they finally left the territory of the Heaven's Mandate race. Lin Feng did not know where he was or where he was going. In any case, he just followed the group. In the group, there were quite a few youths of the same age as him. They looked very young and did not have much experience, so they accounted for quite a large proportion. The others were the main combatants, who were also participants in this operation. They were all top-notch masters of the Dark region. After traveling for several days, Lin Feng had more or less figured out. Although he did not ask and kept a low profile in the group, with his experience, he could clearly judge that this group of experts had entered the territory of the Heaven's Mandate race to save people. Almost all of the people they saved were youths, very young. Many of them had the appearance of humans, but there were also those who looked like Yao and demons. There were people of all races. The Origin Awakening continent was all-inclusive. They should have been locked in cages in the camp before. Lin Feng had seen those huge cages before. They were hung in the air, locking people up like wild beasts. There were many of them. When he left, there were still many cages that had not been opened. Was it a rescue mission? Lin Feng was not very sure. After traveling for a few days, the huge group finally stopped by a lake covered in green grass. The leader was mumbling in a language that Lin Feng did not understand. Many experts who had participated in the battle echoed his words. Soon, the group of youths dispersed. Some had confused expressions, some were solemn, and some were reluctant to leave. Some stayed where they were, not knowing what to do. Among them was Lin Feng. It was not that they did not want to leave, but that they did not know where to go. A big tree is good for shade. Lin Feng thought so. Although he did not know the origin of this group of experts, since they could fight against the Heaven's Mandate race and had a super expert with a saber, they were not ordinary. Most importantly, he was not the only one who had not left. If all of them had left, he would not have foolishly stayed behind. The leader of the group glanced at them with a pair of stern eyes and started mumbling a bunch of words. Although Lin Feng couldn't understand, he could tell from their expressions and tone that they seemed to be asking about something. Many youths echoed, and Lin Feng also made up the numbers. It seemed that these experts did not have any ill intentions. If I'm not wrong, these youths might have no place to go, or the journey is too far and they have no home to return to. Lin Feng analyzed in his heart. This group of experts should take them to a safe place. What he needed now was a safe place. Go to their territory or a city. Is there such a place in Origin Awakened continent? Lin Feng was curious. He was not in a hurry to explore Origin Awakened continent. He had just arrived, so he should settle down first. After finding a safe place, he should at least understand the environment of Origin Awakened continent and familiarize himself with the language of Origin Awakened continent before making any plans. One era was 10,000 years. Although 1,000 years had passed, there was not much left. It was not impossible to spend a few years to adapt. Let's go. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. After the leader of the powerhouses finished his questions, the team set off again. Lin Feng was happy and content as he mingled with them. In any case, he was now out of danger. Where is the destination? Lin Feng was very curious. Chapter 1682. Lin Feng followed the group and traveled for more than 10 days. Although strange beasts appeared along the way, with this group of powerful experts escorting them, there was no danger at all, even if some strange beasts were stronger than Lin Feng. If he were to travel alone, it would be quite dangerous without knowing the dangers of Origin Awakened continent. After many twists and turns, they entered a lively valley in the blink of an eye. It wasn't a city, but it was crowded. Experts from various races could be seen, such as the Holy Light race, Dwarf race, Elf race, and so on. However, there were many rare races that he didn't know. It's so lively. Lin Feng swept his gaze across. The entire valley was in a state of clamor. Various experts were chatting with each other. The group of experts who had brought him and the other youths into the valley had gone their separate ways after entering, not caring about them anymore. It seems that this is a safe area. Lin Feng understood. Although it was a little different from what he had imagined, at least there was a place to stay. Looking at the valley, it was very huge, and he couldn't see the end. On the trees in the valley, there were fist-sized light spots. They weren't fruits of heaven and earth, but were very strange. From afar, they were like fireflies in the night. In the center of the valley, the experts of various races were chatting and laughing. They got along harmoniously. Some stalls were selling goods, and some experts were buying necessities. Although it wasn't like a city, it was orderly. Beside him was a group of confused and at a loss. They were all looking around. They had just arrived and didn't know what to do. In percent beside him, a blue-clothed youth was saying something to Lin Feng in the language of Origin Awakened continent. Lin Feng couldn't understand, so Sui Air explained in the human language of the tongue Awakened continent. However, The blue-clothed youth was also at a loss. Can you understand the language of the winged men race? Lin Feng had an idea. The winged men race, which was a huge force in the Tongue Awakened continent, was naturally not weak in Origin Awakened continent. Some cultivators might be able to understand their language. As expected, yes. The blue-clothed youth was very happy as well. He could finally communicate normally with Lin Feng. Strange. Brother, why don't you know the language of the Origin Awakening continent? You only know the language of the winged men race. However, you don't look like you are from the winged men race. I came from outside. Lin Feng pointed outside. The blue-clothed youth came to a sudden realization and said, "No wonder. The common language we use here was passed down by the Destiny race at the very beginning, and it has been in use ever since. The outside world is ruled by the Winged Men clan, so it's normal to use the Winged Men clan's language." What about the Winged Men clan here? Lin Feng asked. They're also very powerful. They're only slightly weaker than the Destiny race. The blue-clothed youth pursed his lips and looked angry. The Destiny race is a group of despicable and shameless bastards. I almost died at their hands. By the way, brother, how did they capture you? I'm so unlucky. I was just training outside when I got caught for no reason. Some were even more miserable. Their entire clans were exterminated, and many were captured by the Destiny race. The blue-clothed youth talked nonstop. It seemed like he had been holding back for too long. Lin Feng listened and didn't interrupt. He learned a lot of information from the blue-clothed youth. It seemed like the blue-clothed youth thought that Lin Feng was the same as him and was rescued. After all, there were many people who were rescued, and almost none of them knew each other. By the way, we've talked for so long, but I still don't know your name. The blue-clothed youth suddenly remembered and said, I'm called Qi Lu. Lin Feng said. The blue-clothed youth Qi Lu muttered a few times and said, Brother Lin, what do you plan to do next? Do you want to stay here? I haven't thought about it yet. What about you? Lin Feng asked. Qi Lu said, My clan is quite far from here. It's too dangerous for me to go back alone. It just so happens that this is the Mission Valley. I plan to issue a mission and ask someone to bring me back. Mission Valley? Lin Feng was surprised. Qi Lu nodded. Brother Lin has just arrived in Origin Awakened Continent. You might not know, but Origin Awakened Continent has 108 mission valleys, basically covering every corner of Origin Awakened Continent. As long as you pay the price, someone will accept the mission. Lin Feng let out a soft "oh" sound, suddenly understanding. So the people who led the rescue team before were also here to complete a mission? Qi Lu said, Definitely, we were just lucky. Among the people who were captured this time, there must be someone with a strong background, so they issued a lot of void crystals to issue a mission. That's why we were rescued. Lin Feng nodded. Suddenly, he thought of the supermaster with superb blade skills. How much would it cost to invite such a supermaster? I'll be leaving first. Brother Lin, see you later. Qi Lu said. Good, Lin Feng said. Although they had met by chance, Qi Lu had let him know a lot of things. The most important thing now was to learn Origin Awakened Continent's language. Otherwise, it would be too troublesome to communicate. Not every cultivator here understood the Winged Clan's language. After parting with Qi Lu, Lin Feng immediately strolled through the various stalls. In fact, the most convenient way to learn a language was to directly find a weak soul spirit and devour it. But it was not easy to find such a soul spirit. Otherwise, he would have to buy books to learn, which was a little slow. But the problem was that he didn't know how to read, so he didn't know how to read books. Lin Feng searched for a long time and indeed found many stalls selling books, but the problem was he couldn't communicate with them. Just as he had guessed, not every Origin Awakened Continent's expert understood the Winged Clan's language. After going around in circles, he was confused. Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. In the distance, there was a barren square, surrounded by many experts. There were also many people who were choosing in the square. All kinds of clansmen were tied up tightly, their eyes were dull, and a word was clearly imprinted on their foreheads. Although he didn't recognize it, Lin Feng knew that the word was slave. These people were slaves. They should be the weaker clans in Origin Awakened Continent. In Origin Awakened Continent, there were as many clans as there were hairs on a cow, but as long as the clan's strength wasn't weak, the clansmen wouldn't become slaves. This was related to the clan's reputation. If they became slaves, then this clan would definitely be very weak. Looking around, there were some pretty and beautiful female slaves who were very popular. As for the other slaves, there was much less attention paid to them, and no one cared about them. Lin Feng walked forward. There was no harm in buying a slave. He could directly form a soul-spirit contract, and there was no need to devour souls. As long as he scanned the slave's memories, he would be able to obtain all the information, including the Origin Awakened Continent's language. Moreover, he was unfamiliar with this place, and it would be good to have a slave helper. Do you understand? Lin Feng used the Wing clan's language and asked. Although the slave owner was fat, he often came into contact with slaves of various clans and knew a lot of languages. His eyes lit up immediately, and he asked, "What kind of slave does this guest want?" "The strongest one." Lin Feng went straight to the point. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1683. Either he didn't buy, or he bought the best. Strength didn't just represent strength, but also knowledge and insight. Such a powerhouse definitely knew a lot about the Origin Awakened Continent, and there was no harm in having a helper by his side. This is a powerhouse from the Imperial Beast clan. The slave owner hurriedly introduced. A peak master of the Dark Domain, 600 void crystals. The crowd was in an uproar, whispering. Lin Feng naturally didn't understand, but judging from everyone's reaction, this price seemed to be quite high. He glanced at the fat slave owner, whose eyes seemed sincere, but in fact, he wanted to rip him off. Is it because I don't speak the language of the Destiny race? Lin Feng also understood. A businessman's eyes were very sharp. He knew which ones were fat sheep and which ones were shrewd. The bearded man in front of him had his head lowered. Although his expression was not dispirited, he was motionless like a stone sculpture. His whole person was lifeless, as if he had lost his soul. Moreover, his aura wasn't strong. A peak master of the Dark Domain? His combat strength shouldn't be strong. Lin Feng looked at the slave owner. In his opinion, this big man probably couldn't even defeat him. No. He's a genuine 3-star powerhouse. There's a record of him in the Emperor Star Pavilion. You can check it. The slave owner shook his head and said, 3-star powerhouse. Emperor Star Pavilion? Lin Feng's eyes flickered. Although he had never heard of it, it seemed to be true. The Beast Taming Clan. Lin Feng muttered to himself as he scanned his surroundings. Although he did not understand what the others were saying, he knew that this was definitely a losing deal. However, at the moment, it did not matter if he suffered a little loss. He wouldn't fuss over such a small matter. Perhaps this slave's combat strength wasn't very strong, but his strength meant that his vision and experience were higher than the other slaves, which was what he valued. Lin Feng took out a peak chaos profound treasure. I don't have any void crystals on me. Do you want this chaos profound treasure? Oh. The slave master raised his eyebrows and took the top-grade chaos whole profound treasure, looked it over and muttered, "This is a top-grade thunder attribute chaos whole profound treasure. If I sell it to Heavenly Tea Pavilion, I can sell it for about 800 space crystals." Returning the peak chaos profound treasure, the slave owner said, "The Heavenly Tea Pavilion doesn't have it. How about this? I'll use 200 void crystals in exchange for this Beast Clan slave." Suddenly, "No, Brother Lin, you can't." Not far away, a familiar voice rang out. Lin Feng was surprised, but then he saw Qi Lu rushing over and blocking his way. He said angrily, "I say, you guys are too much of a scammer. This slave from the Imperial Beast Clan is not worth 600 void crystals. Beast TTTS, TSSS. Also, this top-grade chaotic whole dark treasure can be sold for at least 1,000 void crystals in the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. It might even be sold for 1,500, 2,000 void crystals." Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. Hearing Qi Lu's words, this slave owner was really ruthless. The language barrier was really a big obstacle, but in fact, it didn't matter to him. He had many peak chaos profound treasures, and countless wing hearts. So what if he could earn them a little? Moreover, he might not necessarily suffer a loss in this deal. However, since Chi Lu was willing to help him, Lin Feng looked at the slave owner with a smile. The latter was trying to explain, smiling at him from time to time. Lin Feng waited quietly. Chi Lu and the slave owner argued until their necks were red. Bargaining was something they were not good at, so it was good to have someone do it for them. After a while, the argument came to a conclusion. Brother Lin, I help you get 1,200 void crystals for this peak chaos profound treasure. But this 3-star slave, the lowest price I can bargain for is 200 void crystals, Chi Lu said helplessly. Lin Feng glanced at the angry slave owner, thanked Chi Lu, and then stepped forward. Let's do it at this price. Although he didn't know whether he would make a loss or a profit, he wouldn't lose much. The most important thing was that it was convenient and fast. Everything else didn't matter. In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng completed the deal with the slave owner and formed a soul contract with the burly man from the Imperial Beast clan. In an instant, a lot of information poured into his mind, and Lin Feng quickly absorbed it. As he expected, this powerhouse from the Imperial Beast clan was quite experienced. From his memory, not only did he learn a lot of information about the Origin Awakening continent, but he also learned several languages, including the Heavenly Tea Pavilion that the slave owner mentioned before, the 3-star powerhouse, and the Emperor Star Tower. There were also the 108 mission valleys, which belonged to an organization called Samsara and so on. Stupid, 200 void crystals to buy a slave that can't even defeat a 2-star powerhouse. If I were to buy one, I would pay more than 100 void crystals. The Imperial Beast clan slaves are useless without their exotic beasts. 200 void crystals to buy a piece of trash. How extravagant. Stupid but rich. At this time, Lin Feng could already understand the heated discussions around him. Sure enough, there was nothing good to say. Looking at Chi Lu, who still looked guilty and apologetic, Lin Feng patted him on the shoulder. Let's go, Brother Chi. We'll talk as we walk. Chi Lu nodded and left together. Behind him, the burly man from the Imperial Beast clan, Tai Dong, followed. Sorry, Brother Lin. Chi Lu apologized again. I should have paid a lower price. Lin Feng smiled. You're not his opponent. The slave owner had long been proficient in this business, and there was no room for negotiation. As the saying goes, every skill has its own specialty. After all, Chi Lu was a young man, and his methods and experience were far inferior to the slave owner. Chi Lu sighed softly. Don't sigh. You've already helped me save a lot. Lin Feng smiled and comforted him. Don't worry too much about this small amount of money. It's better to let others earn a little. For us, there's no need to haggle over such things. Strength is what really matters. Understood. Chi Lu nodded. The two were currently conversing in the language of the Heaven's Mandate race. Lin Feng was now proficient in using the language and could understand it. This was a big step for him to enter the Origin Awakened continent. By the way, Brother Chi, didn't you go to issue missions? Why did you come back? Lin Feng asked, puzzled. Chi Lu smiled bitterly. I'm ashamed to say that I only found out halfway that my storage ring and treasures had been plundered by the Heaven's Mandate race. I don't have anything on me, so how could I issue missions? Lin Feng let out a soft "oh." After all, he had been captured and imprisoned by the Heaven's Mandate race. How much do you need? I'll give it to you. Lin Feng was not a stingy person. He would help as much as he could. No, how can I do that? Chi Lu hurriedly waved his hand. Suddenly, he thought of something and looked at Lin Feng in surprise. Brother Lin, how come you still have a Chaos Cave profound treasure? Looking Lin Feng up and down, Chi Lu was a little confused. More than one? Didn't the Heaven's Mandate race plunder you? For the latest novel updates, please visit the website.